on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE, and welcome back to the channel that... I'll start that again without the audio interruption. Hey, I'm FTFE, and welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what the Artemis Project is going to do to all the hopes and dreams of any flat earther that exists. Tonight we have a fantastic show for you guys. We have someone who is an actual professor debating someone that thinks the earth is flat. Professor Philip Bell and the Mind of God. Mind of God was actually one of my, well, probably my very first proper debate that I had on the Non Sequitur show, where he said the word orthogonal about 7 million times. So that was fun. You all know Professor Philip Bell, regularly appears on Jose J.G. Gonzalez show. He's been on a couple of times with me and team. Works with people who actually send stuff to the moon. So it's going to be an awesome show tonight. So why don't we just go over to the guys and let them introduce themselves. We'll start with the Mind of God. How are you doing this evening, Mind of God?
Greg, good to see you, man. I'm doing well. Just laying low. Played some golf today. You know,
Awesome.
Excited for this dialogue. I mean, Professor Bell and I have spoken, I believe, in past hangouts, but he requested, you know, our top 3, you know, reasons for our stance, you know, on the geometry of the Earth, and so I'm looking forward to the discussion. I'll keep it light. I don't want this to get nasty. I don't think there's any reason. We believe what we believe, but thanks for having me on.
No worries. For anyone who hasn't seen you before, do you want to tell them where they can find you?
Yes, my channel is called The Mind of God. It sounds grandiose and arrogant, but it's not. It's just the vantage point that I like to think about things. The God that I would say I'm here representing, pretty much really I would say the only reason why I'm kind of interested in these debates is the Bible. If the Bible did not have a clear stance on the shape, I probably would still be interested in talking it through, but not with as much sort of fervor. But it's a very religious-based channel. If you're not into even one conspiracy theory, it's probably not a good place for you. But you know, it's a very Bible-focused channel, and yeah, check it out.
All right, thank you very much. And on the side for the globe today, we have Professor Philip Bell. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
How do you do? Just call me Phil. That's enough.
Why don't you just tell people a bit about yourself, what it is you do?
Okay, so well, basically, I'm an educator, as you can tell, and apart from that, I also one of the things that we're required to do as educators is to keep our professional stance up. So I do other work as well, and as you did introduce, I involved in the space industry. Now, and that's actually going to come to an end soon, because I'm getting to the point where I want to do something different. So I'm actually going to be joining in the fight in India, in the fight against climate change, and I'll be involved in education and in the area of climate change adaptation. So pretty much the horse is bolted. The horse is bolted for climate change, as much as the politicians would like to tell us otherwise. You've got this many years, you've got that many years. Well, total nonsense. The climate is changing whether we like it or not. So we actually have to do something about it.
Absolutely.
Now, and we have to learn to adapt.
Yeah, adaptation is, I think, the most important thing about survival, right?
I think so. There's no doubt we have to. I mean, look at us in Australia. It wasn't that long ago we were fighting fires that covered, you know, half of our country. We have droughts that last, you know, 10 years. It's, you know, we definitely will be adapting. Our most important resource will be water, and we'll certainly be having to manage that really, really well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Philip. Phil, I really appreciate you joining me tonight. I know that you're a busy man being an actual educator, and we've got about an hour and a half because you have a real job to get to. So thank you very much for joining. I really do appreciate it. Now, the way it's going to work tonight, guys, is Professor Philip Bell sent me a video it's around 20 minutes long. So I thought that basically for the intros for the guys, they can both have around 20 minutes. For Professor Bell, I will play his video. For Mind of God, you can just talk about whatever you like, bring up your points. I've got the video ready that you sent me if you'd like me to play that as well.
Yeah.
So which one of you would like to go first?
Wait, is
You
Professor
can do
Bell's
Mind of
3
God.
points summarized in the video, or that's all it's going to be? It's
I'm
summarized in
mainly
the video?
covering I'm really just have one point in the video, and that is what is a computer a scientific model. But I'll certainly talk through the others as it was. I couldn't really make the video too long, so I tried to shorten as much as I possibly could. So why don't we just play this by ear, okay? All right, let's call this a
Sure.
discussion. How's
Okay.
Sure.
Mind of God, would you like to go first with presenting why you think the Earth is flat?
Yeah, I will just, these are my strongest, these are the foundational elements, I would say, for me, that, you know, I initially put the Bible on here, but I didn't want this to get into a religious discussion. We can, if it needs to go that way. I would say that the Bible is the motivation
Doesn't bother
for
me.
me to,
You
that's,
can,
but I just
if you
figured
want to
since,
bring
since
the
you're more on
Bible,
the
you can.
yeah, that's fine. You're on the more technical side, so I would just say, or, you know, broadly speaking, the Bible is the motivation to be on these debates, not necessarily the technical underpinning. So the first point for me is just there's no Earth movement. You know, that's just obvious. I don't know really a fair way for us to even prove this, and so we can get into a discussion on that. You know, if Professor Bell wants to. To me, that's self-evident. The next one for me, I would say this one was the one that solidified the lack of curvature, is the black swan, and just discussions around optics and you know, what is required for that type of an image to work on a ball Earth is non-physical. And the third one for me is the video that I sent to Craig, or to Fight the Flat Earth, is as pilots, and not just the video that I'm going to play, but also I have 2 people in my life, people who I went to undergrad with, who are pilots, and discussions around this flat Earth with them is that would be the one industry that I would say would be the most, you know, reliable, I guess, to tell us what we live on. And so the video that I've sent Craig, that's on my channel, and it's been on Russian Vid's channel, and it's from Casey Josh's channel, and you know, of pilots testifying that the Earth is indeed flat and stationary, and then, you know, we can discuss what I've talked to with my friends. So
Okay, well,
those are my 3.
why don't you talk about the fact that the lack of movement that you discussed? Why do you think that there is
Yeah,
a lack
Professor
of
Bell,
movement?
what do you think about that? Like that's the strongest point for us. It's
Okay, I think your
self-evident,
topics
you
are
know.
fine. No
Yeah.
problems with that. I mean, I'm happy to. Well, let's go into that discussion after you've seen my video, because that might put some context in it for you.
Sure.
But yes, look, I'm happy to discuss the idea that you think the Earth is not moving, and I can probably give you some examples of why it is that you don't feel that the Earth is moving. So let's cover the video, and then we can just go into the nitty gritty, to the detail. How's
Okay,
that?
well, when
By
I
the way,
play
Professor
the
Bell,
video... sorry, go
by
on.
the way,
go on,
did you
Mike.
say that climate change is more likely on a flat, contained Earth? I couldn't remember what you said earlier. Your study on climate change. That's more probable in a closed
Oh,
system. Right?
okay. My thing about climate change is, which is where I'm taking me now, although this is hopefully my career goes a long time still. However, I'm leaving the technical aspects of putting satellites into orbit to young people and or younger people, and I'm going to join an army of scientists who are working with climate adaptation. So let's call it that, climate change adaptation. Okay.
All right. So, Mind of God, why don't you briefly explain about the black swan and what you think that shows?
Right. I don't think I've spoken to Professor Bell on the black swan, and so, you know, we've got into the details on this. You know, for people that thanks for putting that image up. Yeah, it's few feet off the ground observation. You know, we're talking about 2, you know, oil platforms. The horizon is beyond the furthest one, so it's at least, you know, 10, 11 miles away. So, you know, this this is what we would expect, you know, on a flat Earth. And so for the ball Earth model to honor this, it would require a significant amount of refraction, and then more focused along the surface. There would have to be these things called surface rays that Rumpus calls K, with a K value of 1, which essentially is just rays that stay tight to the surface and travel for 10 miles over the ball Earth. And so that's the part that is non-physical. And, you know, we can discuss, I'm not sure how you even defend something like this. You know,
well, you'll okay. Well, I'll definitely be able to do that. Although I'm interested in how you said this is what it would look like on a flat Earth. You know, there's a part of me that agrees with that. This is what it would like on a flat.
Anybody with common sense.
This is what it would look like on a flat Earth.
Yeah, absolutely.
The difference is that I would then be assuming right ahead of me is a very thick fog that prevents me from seeing anything else beyond it. So I can't see anything else beyond it simply because there's some sort of fog ahead of it, which is not surprising because there's so much distortion in this picture. So yes, the fog right ahead, and because in a flat Earth that often would just keep going, and that would just get fuzzier and fuzzier at the edges, which is pretty fuzzy at the moment. I would say that you're pretty much spot on. This is kind of like what it would look like if it was actually flat.
That's exactly what it would look like on a flat Earth.
Right. So your main point here is that. Yeah, so your main point here, Mind of God, is that this image is what you would expect to see on a flat Earth, right?
Yeah, and I think this is going to be a good segue into Professor Bell's discussion on models, is that this would be an outlier in the model, the heliocentric model. And you could claim that it's still within reach of the scientific model. That's fair, but you have to invoke a tremendous amount of refraction. And so that's the part where we would need to you guys would have to justify, where is that coming from? How are these rays being motivated to turn for 10 miles in such an elegant and consistent way over the surface of the Earth? That's non-physical. You have to show me the medium that will allow the rays to propagate in that way.
Sure.
And you won't be able to.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Right, brilliant. So lack of movement was one of your points. Do you just want to briefly talk about why you think there isn't any detectable movement?
Well, I guess let's not even assume anything. How do we figure out whether there is? And so what's a fair way that we could determine, for example, this high-rise building that I live in Houston is actually moving in some way? So if it's moving, we'd have to decide what it's moving relative to. I think that would be the part that we would possibly debate the most. But yeah, I mean, we could come up with a way to test that. But I have no reason to believe that these buildings are moving, you know, and that's the argument that pretty much for other people that I talk to, technical people that I know, they don't want to talk about this more after I say that, because they know that nothing's moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Let's let Mog finish his points before you get respond, Professor Bell.
Sure.
Lack of movement and ways to actually figure out if there is any movement. The black swan and optics, and your other point was pilots saying that the Earth is flat.
Pilots' testimony. Right. So if you can play this short clip.
I've got a 4-minute video here, so I'll just play that for you guys.
Sure.
That is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
I'm just going to increase the speed, okay?
Thank you.
Can I ask the pilots one question?
The first officer's here.
Do you mind?
He's got a question for you. Oh, yeah.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good.
I'm a fellow, Casey Josh, I'm a fellow just PPL pilot here.
Yeah, nice.
I've got a couple of serious questions to ask you.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, there's a big time. Curvature.
Curvature?
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't allow for curvature, do we?
For anything, not for you usually. Yeah.
No, we're round. We're a disc, aren't we? Round and flat.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hey, look, honestly, quite seriously,
Yeah.
we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for being honest. Can I ask you one more serious question?
Yeah, go for it.
I've just got one question to ask. Flat or a ball? Well, I never feel as breaking round. If we live on a ball, surely we'd have to fly around it. Yeah, it feels like flat or a ball.
I think it's flat.
Yeah, me too. It certainly does, doesn't it? And you've got that flight instrument down there to keep it flat.
Gravity exists.
Gravity is an unproven theory.
No, it's not.
Let's rock and roll. Cheers, fellas. Thank you very much.
Are you the pilot? Oh, okay. Am I allowed to say hi? Hey, I just want to say thanks for the smooth flight.
Right.
I have one question. Is there like a specific angle of downward tilt you have to fly at to
3 degrees.
3 degrees for the curvature of the Earth?
Oh, for the Earth?
Because yeah,
no, we just fly over the troposphere.
Really?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
do you have to keep like kind of going down because?
No, we actually have to nose up. It flies. Yeah.
Really? Because I was reading some stuff on the flat Earth. It made a lot of sense. Have you looked into it?
Which one? Sorry?
I was reading a lot of stuff on the flat Earth.
Okay, yeah. True.
It's true?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
All right.
God bless, brother.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
I'm sorry, pilot. Can I have a quick word with the pilot? I just want pilot talk. Just want to ask about something. Something about the plane. Just pilot talk. Thank you. Absolutely, I understand that these days. G'day guys.
How you going?
Just a fellow PPL.
Oh yes.
You know,
Yeah,
but yeah. Casey, how are you, mate?
Yeah, sure.
Pleased to meet you guys. Guys, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I've been flying, and I've come to the conclusion there is no curvature. I never allow for curvature. There's no way there's curvature. We're round and flat, aren't we?
Definitely.
We are, aren't we?
Flat as a
Thank
pancake,
you,
mate.
sir.
Flat as a pancake.
We're so, and the outer ring is south.
Yeah.
And so north must be in the middle, correct?
Possibly.
That would be the only way that a magnetic compass would work on a flat plane.
Might be on something there.
Yeah, but you're not having me on. We're round and flat, aren't
Flat
we?
as a pancake, mate. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, man.
No worries.
You made my day.
No, people just don't know that.
But,
Yeah.
well,
There
you know,
go.
I tell a few people, especially some close mates, even
Yeah,
though
yeah.
even though I'm a pilot,
Yeah.
they'll have to hit up at me. I think I'm
it.
an absolute nut job.
Ah. Nah.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Okay, no worries, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
Okay.
FTFE, I got to supplement that video.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to supplement that video with, it's obviously not me trusting a video on YouTube because that's just a video, but you know, I do believe that those are not scripted. Those are real interactions that people can have with pilots if they are open enough to talk to them. But more compelling is that my friend from undergrad is an amateur pilot and he works for a flight simulator company in Canada. And another one works in defense. And so I've asked them through personal interaction about basically this, you know, and they have reaffirmed to me that they assume flat and stationary. And so they're still ballers. They're not, you know, defending flat Earth, coming out publicly. They have a career and a life and all that kind of stuff. But I haven't heard anything. So of all the industries out there, that one would be good. We can also discuss seismic because I have familiarity with that, directional drilling and all that kind of stuff. So those are the kind of people that would need to know whether the Earth is curved and moving and all that kind of stuff. So it's that video supplemented with real people. You know, Chris Berry has also talked to, you know, people in his life who are pilots, and they say the same thing. And so when you talk to people on a personal level, I'm not talking about Wolfie and all these other agents. Pilots assume flat and stationary.
Sorry, did you just say Wolfie's an agent?
Wolfie doesn't know how to read because he responded to those that video that I posted on my channel, and he's like, "Oh, let me interview that guy. He's like not real." I'm like, I told him he's still a baller. Why are you freaking out? Like, I don't think Wolfie knows how to read. Do you think he maybe is illiterate?
No, definitely not.
Okay, I'm just wondering because I told him that he's still a baller. So why are you getting mad at me when I'm telling you that that person that I interviewed on my channel is still a baller, but he assumes flat and stationary? And so, you know, Wolfie and Bob the Science Guy and all these people, they're obviously not, you know, real pilots.
Okay, that's a hell of an assumption. There is going to be an after show, guys. I'm not involved in this debate. There's a lot of things that Mind of God just said that I thoroughly disagree with, but I'm acting as an impartial moderator, so I'm not going to get involved in the conversation. But there will be an after show, which Mind of God is more than welcome to come to. I'm hoping that Hip Hop Hippie can come along to the after show as well, because I very much enjoy showing up for that moron. But so Mind of God's 3 points there, just to reiterate for you guys, are the fact that there's no measurable movement to the Earth, and how that you would actually detect the movement. The black swan and optics in general, and the fact that some pilots have admitted that they use a non-rotating reference frame, etc. Is that a fair assumption? A fair breakdown of what you just said?
Yes. Can I add one minor thing, if I'm allowed to add in half a point, or I don't want to, you know, overstep this, but one thing that Barney and I discussed, Barney Tierspill discussed, that I would say would essentially prove the ball Earth for me is that any kind of mechanism that can understand angle or tilt, like some kind of gyro, if you put that on a boat and sailed it and showed us, all of us, that it actually honors the orientation change, what I call the normal vector. I will not be using the term orthogonal. I've been banned from using that, but I can use the term normal. So the normal vector on a boat points outwards, and then if that changes because of just simply a boat moving across the water, then the Earth is curved. You know, that's a very simple and elegant proof of a curved Earth. We have not seen that, so I would have to believe that the Earth is flat.
Right.
That's,
okay.
I rest my case.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So for Philip Bell, Professor Philip Bell, he sent me a video. Before I play the video, Professor, is there anything that you'd like to say?
Yes, well, first of all, I just want to point out that you can call me Phil, and that's one.
Phil,
and
yeah,
secondly, yeah, that's okay. And secondly, I also want to point out that that my station in life is not what's important. We don't rely on authority. We rely on what the person says. So you can be anybody at all. You do the work, and you'll be recognized for the work that you do. So if you do think the Earth is flat, then get off your butt and action about it. See if you can write a scientific paper, bring your evidence to the table, present it, get it peer reviewed. And if the Earth does turn out to be flat, trust me, there'll be no person on this planet who'll be more famous than you.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
On this planet.
Right, so Professor Phil has a 20-minute video, guys. I'm just going to let it play for you, and then after that we will get straight into an open discussion between the guys. So
Cool.
Sit back and relax. Professor Philip Bell presenting about mathematical models.
Okay, folks. So what is a model? Well, let's think of a model as a bunch of ideas. We make observations, we experience things around us, we experience nature, and we want to know how nature works, how these things work. So what we do is we create a model, and we base that model on evidence. The model allows us to make predictions about those things that we see. The model is not a truth, and it's not proof of anything. It is exactly what I've just said. It's a model. It's a bunch of ideas that gives us an explanation for the way things work. Okay, so let's have a look over here. There's a few things about models, but I've put them into three categories. Simplified a bit. First of all, we have the facts category. So when we're putting a model together, we rely on certain facts. Facts that are based and supported by evidence. And then we have speculation and deductions. So we include these in our model as well. We may make deductions based on observations that we have, on evidence. We see a particular type of evidence, we can deduce that it leads to some other conclusion, to a conclusion. That's reasonable. That's because we're human. And we make deductions all the time. What's important though is those deductions explain properly what's happening, and we can use those deductions to make predictions, accurate predictions. The other column over here is the column of observation and evidence.
Okay, let's have a look at this in more detail. So this particular model that I've got back here is the Sun. So we'll examine this from the perspective of a model. A bunch of ideas, as I told you. Okay, let's look at the facts column. The amount of energy that comes from the Sun is a fact. You can measure it. I can measure it. Everybody can measure it. If you're interested enough, you can measure it. It's a fact. If you don't believe this fact, measure it. Prove that this fact is wrong. Show us how it's wrong. The Sun puts out radiation, and some of that radiation is visible light. Other wavelengths are X-rays, to a small extent gamma rays, and we have ultraviolet at various wavelengths, radio waves, infrared. All of these come from the Sun. There are facts. We can measure them. They all constitute part of this energy that comes from the Sun. We know how much there is. The composition of the Sun, certainly at the surface. We can see what the composition of the Sun is because we can measure it. We have the tools to determine what the elements are that constitute the surface of the Sun. It's not a guess. It's a fact. It's an undeniable fact. However you think the Sun behaves, and however you think the shape of the Earth is, this is an undeniable fact. The distance to the Sun is a fact. It's a fact because it's been measured. We have in our tools geometry. We also have in our toolbox telescopes. We also have our eyesight. We can see Venus. We can see how Venus traverses the Sun. And we can use that to determine how far the Sun is away. We can also tell how big the Sun is. Again, because we have access to geometry. These are facts. The movement and the orbiting. So, it's a fact that the Earth is a sphere. How do we know that? Because it's supported by evidence. We actually have objects, man-made objects, far enough away from Earth to be able to view the Earth. We've invented cameras. We can have a look at things from the perspective of a camera. They give us accurate information. These objects also rely on the fact that the Earth is spinning. And therefore, it's the Earth that's spinning. This is a fact. Okay, so let's have a look at the next column. Speculation and deductions. Models include speculation and deductions, as I said before. What are we speculating about with regards to the sun? We've built this model, and one of the things we speculate about is where it all comes from. So, we make deductions based on our understanding of the Big Bang Theory, which in itself is full of deductions and speculation. It's a model. It's not a truth. It's not a proof. So we can use that to deduce how the sun came to be. We can look at other stars. Other stars are similar to ours, that are similar to ours. A G2 star that we have. We look at them, they have a similar radiation, they have a similar amount of energy per unit volume. So we can deduce that ours is also one of those stars. That's a reasonable deduction to make. It's an intelligent deduction to make. Forms part of our model. Is it a truth? No. Is it proof? No. Is it damn good evidence? You bet. Okay. The center of the sun. Not what it's made of. We're pretty sure about that. We have stuff we can measure. But how is it constituted? How dense is it? There's a lot of questions to be answered. Our model predicts that photons begin at the center of the sun as gamma rays and eventually turn into visible light. This is what we get to see. Some of those just end up as X-rays. Some of those outside the visible light range. But all of them emanate from a fusion reaction which produces gamma rays. Gamma photons. Okay, that part, that's deduction. But that model fits. It fits with our understanding of the physics of nuclear fusion. So we think, well, that's a pretty good explanation. And if you can come up with a better one that's supported by evidence, great. I'm sure everybody will look at that. And if they can't falsify it, they'll give you a Nobel Prize for Physics, no doubt. And while I'm on that topic, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your background is. Science doesn't actually care. It doesn't care what my position is. It doesn't care how long I've studied for. It doesn't care how much experience I have. It doesn't care how long I have been a scientist for. It only cares about what I say now. So you can go out. You want to learn something? Study it. Put the effort in. You may end up with a Nobel Prize. Write a paper. Okay. Let's have a look at this column. This one here, evidence, observations, predictions. This is the supporting evidence, the supporting observation, the supporting predictions that allow us to call these things facts or allow us to make deductions. For instance, where they come from, we can refer to the Big Bang, as I said before. The behavior of light. That's been well studied. The photoelectric effect. This isn't new science. And there's plenty of evidence that supports the model of the photoelectric effect. We can actually use it. Spectroscopy. That tells us what the sun is made of. And because we can see what it's made of and we can see what energy levels are there, we can deduce lots of things from it. But there are also things that are facts, like the radiation and the spectral lines that tells us what the elements are. So the composition. I've spoken about the observed motion, sunlight to electrical energy. That's not an accident. That comes from using the model. Now I have to ask you, I hear the people who think the earth is flat say this all the time. We don't have a model. Well, we haven't had time to make a model. You've had thousands of years to make a model. That's what they say. Us have had thousands of years to make a model. Well, the thousands of years have been there for anyone else to make a model about a flat earth too. It's the same 2,000 years. So why isn't there a model for a flat earth? I can answer that question. Because whenever you try to put together a model of a flat earth, it doesn't work. It can't work coherently. It's incoherent. Okay, let's get back to the sun. The silly assertions that are made about this model. The sun is not an object. Well, there are certain facts that make that statement silly. For instance, the fact that the sun does give out radiation. The fact that the sun does convert mass into energy. It has to be an object. The fact that the sun has helium and hydrogen. Both of those have protons. Helium has neutrons. These together have mass. For them to have mass, they need to be objects. They are objects. That is fact. This statement is rubbish. If you are a flat earther, remove that from your lexicon. It's nonsense. The sun is close. Here we go again. The amount of energy that comes from the sun is measurable. You can measure it. As I said before. So, it's impossible for it to be close and have that energy. The closeness, as far as flat Earth is concerned, because you don't have a model, is speculation. Well, that's speculation without even considering the fact that the sun has so much energy that would make it impossible. Are there any examples where there are planets so close that it's impossible to have life because there is too much energy? Yes. There are planets that are too close to the sun. That will make it impossible for there to be life. There's plenty of planets that are too close to their suns that would make it impossible. The sun moves away at night. Another ridiculous statement. Because if you were even honest with yourself, you would know, you would admit that the sun ought to get smaller and smaller and smaller into the distance. And then you'd ask yourself, how far away does it have to be before you can't see it any longer? If it's a flat plane. How far would that be? That it's gone so far away that you can't see it, that you can't see any light from it. How far does a candle have to be before you can't see the light? How far away is a lighthouse before you can't see the light? Why is it that just 3 miles away you can't see the light anymore? If the horizon is 3 miles away and the sun goes down and you can't see it anymore, why is it that you can't see the light just 3 miles away? And yet, when you look up, you see the stars. How is it you see the stars and you don't see the sun just 3 miles away? Why have you not thought about that? That Queen Eraser that you go to, you know, the boss of flat earth knowledge. Why don't you ask this Queen this question? Ask him this question. Or don't you care about the truth? Don't you care about the facts? Maybe that's it. You don't know what it is. And you use the word we don't know what it is. Speak for yourself. Because in this column we have facts. Facts supported by evidence. And in this fact over here, we know that the sun is made of helium and hydrogen in a fusion reaction. These are facts. So this statement, just like the others, is garbage. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil, there for that. Have you got anything you'd like to add to that quickly before we get into the discussion portion?
I think that was long enough and comprehensive enough to cover broadly what a model is. I hope that your viewers can understand that when we talk about a model, we're not talking about a truth. We're not talking about proof. We're talking about putting together some ideas that describe the things that we see and feel around us. So from there, evidence comes out to produce this model. Testable evidence, repeatable evidence, and best of all, predictions that we can use this model for. If you don't have a model, what use are you?
Okay.
What's the use of not having a model?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so why don't we just go straight into an open discussion between the two of you. I'll try and sit back as much as possible. I hope I don't need to get involved. But, you know, both of you have brought up a lot of points, so I'll just let the conversation go wherever it goes. So whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Fight the Flat Earth. Can I make a request? Professor Bell does not want to be referred to as Professor, you know, just to keep this informal. Do you mind if I'm referred to as Professor?
Please, you call me what you like.
I think he wants him to be called Professor. No, mind of God, we're not calling you Professor.
Okay, fine.
There's many words I could think of for you, but we're definitely not using Professor.
Okay. I want to talk about scientific models. You know, I listened to that. I would use different language, and I'm curious if we can agree on this type of terminology. The way I view models, even financial ones that I've worked on or more technical ones, is they're not you know, rooted in speculation. They're rooted in observation, if we're talking about the geometry of the Earth, or actual facts, things that are rigid. And so those are the sort of anchor points. And then you can interpolate in between those if you don't have infinite observations. So I would use interpolation to create the narrative within those data points, and then its predictive capability I would call extrapolation. And so do you have a fundamental issue with that language, Professor Bell?
No, I'm pretty sure I know what you mean, and I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. So no.
Okay. Yeah,
just
that's
language.
Good. So, yeah, the only worry I would say now is that those tenets that you in that video called speculation, I believe that's really where we're at fundamentally in our differences, is that we can't have any model rooted in speculation unless we're aware of the fact that everything that it can produce at that point is speculation as well. Are you comfortable with that? I know that hurts your argument.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not comfortable with the way you characterize that. So when I say yes, there's some things that we can speculate. We can speculate, for instance, about what the sun's core is made out of. How dense it is. We can speculate about that. We can speculate about all sorts of things like that. Doesn't change the fundamental model of the sun that allows us to use it to make predictions.
Here's one example with the black swan. Here's one example with the black swan is that if in your model one of your anchor points is that objects cannot be obstructed ever bottom up across a flat surface, then we have everything that your model produces, if that's one of your foundational tenets, will be different than mine, quote mine, the flat Earth model, because anybody who's going to create a flat Earth model, that is a fact. You know, we've proven it, put math behind it and all that. So do you see how really at the gate we're not going to agree? You know, let's just say we are required to produce a model that is sufficiently detailed as the Ball Earth model. Right away, our very, very first step in both models are going to be in opposite directions. Objects can absolutely, and it's been demonstrated, can be obstructed bottom up flat across a flat surface. That's been shown.
Okay, so you said you've done the maths and you've done proof. What proof? What maths?
I haven't done it, but I direct you to a channel called Life is Short, and we've just done tests in our hallway and different things to motivate what he's done. So he's put the math behind it.
I don't know this channel. Is this flat Earth similar to the ones that we see around?
No,
you know, with North Pole in the middle.
No, this is the only real technical contribution that I've seen from both sides. Real, actual research, actual mathematics. So that is all I've seen. That's good, really, and I'm putting myself in that. That's the best. So
you
go to his channel. What's that?
It would have been helpful if you had a picture of it, so that
no, it's fine. It's fine. No, that's fine. I mean, the videos are like hours long, but I would highly recommend go to that, and then you feel free to disagree. But I just want people to know, like, this is not a debate anymore. It's been absolutely shown that objects can and do disappear bottom up across a flat surface, and we can give intuition. I can explain it in more layman's terms, but he's put the math behind it, how it works in terms of optics and all that kind of stuff. But so that's a problem, right? Like if your model does not allow for that possibility. Hello?
Okay. You explained
Yeah, if your
to me
model,
one of the things that let's go through some of these
sure.
things over here. Explain to me when the sun does go away from you, where does it go?
This is
Where
the
does the sun
fundamental.
go?
Yeah, it's the same principle as bottom-up obstruction across like a hallway. The top of the sun will always have a visual preference to the bottom. So it would be extrapolating the work essentially that he's done, because height always improves visibility.
Yeah, that's yes. If you go high, if you let the sun set, set,
yeah,
and then you go higher up, you'll see it again. But guess what? It'll still have the size.
No,
it
but
won't
the
have.
reciprocal's true.
It won't have gone any further away from you.
1 second. The reciprocal's true. If you put something higher up, it has visual preference. So you're right. If you go up higher, like with a drone or a person, you can see more. I'll agree with that. Any surface that would be better. But if you do the opposite, let's just use the sun in this case. Height will always give you visual preference, and so the top of the sun will always have visual preference to the bottom. So if the sun is moving away, let's say it's over top of water, then the distortion will always appear first on the bottom. And so that's just a fact in terms of optics. That's been shown.
You might as well have spoken a different language.
Do you disagree with that?
Of course.
So, right. So you just said that height improves visibility.
1 sec, man. I got to let Professor Bill
Bill
respond to what you said there.
Go for it.
What you'd expect to see if the Earth was flat and the sun was heading away from you would be that the sun would be getting smaller as it goes away into the distance to the point where you ought to not see it anymore because it's dark. Because all of a sudden we see it's pitch black. So they've obviously gone so far away that you can't see it anymore. Well, first of all, it doesn't get smaller and smaller as it goes away. And so they do climb up further. For instance, if you go up, say, in a helicopter 1,000 meters more, you can experience the sunset again, the same sunset as you did before, and the angular size of the sun won't have changed. It's not as though it's gone any further away. It's no further away, and it's no different in size. Just from perspective, you ought to. That's wrong. That you can't. That would not comport with a flat Earth.
Well, the first point the first point I wanted to make sure that we don't need to keep coming back to this. Height gives visual preference. I'm fine with that. We don't have to keep revisiting that. If you want to then now claim that angular size does not change, and then that's evidence of a curved Earth, that's fine. You can make that point. But I want to make sure that we don't keep going back to the double sunsets and all that. Height improves.
I'm just hoping that you get on the same page.
That's fine. That's fine. Height improves visibility. We're okay with that. Whether you're looking over a flat Earth, a slightly curved Earth, a very curved Earth, how could it not? What's it going to do? Make what's over there harder to see? That doesn't make any sense, right? So that's obvious. I'm just asking you to consider the reciprocal of that. What if you have a building that's being constructed from ground up? Then if that building gets higher up, we're going to have an ability to see that easier as it gets built up higher. And so that's the fundamental principle for bottom up. I don't want to hold you to that because you haven't heard about it yet, but I would highly recommend looking into that. But okay, so now your point is angular size, right? You believe that the angular size of the sun does not change, and you believe that that's evidence or proof of a far-field sun?
Let's leave proof out of it if we're talking about science. Certainly very, very compelling evidence, yes. Yeah, and,
okay,
there's more.
Sure. So that is your evidence of a 93 million mile sun, or you would just say that's evidence that cannot work on a flat Earth?
No, I explained in the video. I explained that falls into the fact column, the 93 million miles. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
The distance of the sun is a fact. It's a fact because it's measured. Okay. Venus actually is a planet that transverses the sun, and we do have geometry in our lexicon of mathematics. Okay. The distance of the sun is a fact. This is an undeniable fact.
Who measured that?
Lots of people. Lots of people who watch the transverse of Venus. Okay, All
How
right.
do
If
they
you
measure
if you want to look that up and you want to find out how that's done, there's plenty of opportunities for that for you to read about it.
But
Okay.
no, Phil, that should be an output of the model. That should be telling you about. You can't put that as an anchor point. You have to put a real observation that anybody would agree on, and then you could extrapolate distances and all that kind of stuff. So I don't understand why you're putting that as a fact when, first of all, your whole video, which put half the chat to sleep, was talking about everything's like there are things in that are speculation. So I don't know why you're saying some are fact and some are speculation. When you mix fact and speculation, what do you get? You get speculation, right?
I'm not. That's why I have them in different columns.
Okay, so why do you believe that's a fact?
You don't say in different columns?
But why do you surround that with other quote unquote speculations? Like why not put everything in there that you believe are facts?
There's never going to be anything dishonest about what I say, okay? There are facts, there's deductions and speculation, and there's the supporting evidence. The fact is, the distance to the sun is known. The distance of the sun is measured, okay? This is an undeniable fact. You put, okay? It's available to you. It's available to anybody who wants to
order
do
of
it.
magnitude. We know it's not even on the order of magnitude a million, so that's absolute nonsense. So
no, don't. That falls under one of these silly statements over here that I spoke about. You can't deny the facts, okay? Let's establish things that are facts, things that... Do you deny that you can do it, that you can measure the distance to the sun?
I don't know how I would do that personally.
Even if the sun was close, even if the sun was close, you ought to be able to measure the distance to it, right?
How would I do that? I'd have to think about that. I'd probably need some pretty sophisticated technology. I don't know how to do it in a unique way. I haven't thought about it that much. So, I'm open.
It seems as though you've had how about the 2,000 years you've had to do it? Not enough time?
No, I'm 38 years old.
Not you. I'm talking about, anybody who wants to speculate that the sun is close by. Now, the other thing about it is, as I mentioned before, the energy. This is another fact. Yeah, the energy from the sun is a fact. We can measure that. We actually have tools that measure the energy from the sun. We actually have tools that can
measure that. How close do you have to be to measure that?
You can measure it from the ground.
But
you can measure the energy from the sun.
As you get closer to the sun, it would be highly nonlinear, right?
It's an inverse square relationship.
No, it would. No one would say that. No.
You wouldn't.
Highly nonlinear. And whatever you assume about that nonlinear,
I didn't say. Did I say linear?
I hope not.
I think I said inverse square. Surely you heard that.
No, but it's not going to maintain that throughout its whole time. As you get closer, it's going to become increasingly nonlinear. That's my point. It's not going to maintain that
I
R
didn't
squared.
say it was linear even from the beginning.
No, I'm saying it's not even going to maintain the R squared. It's going to get more nonlinear.
Oh, I'm afraid it does.
Well,
you're denying it doesn't help you.
How can you know that unless you're right up against it, and you know exactly
how about you do the experiment?
No,
you see, the thing about facts are they're available to you. You can find out. You can prove that I'm wrong. You can go ahead and do these measurements yourself. Okay? The problem for flat Earth is these facts.
It's not a fact.
These are not conjecture. These are not deductions. These are facts. You can actually measure them. What about the radiation from the sun?
That's your model of the radiation or the energy.
Are you denying that the sun has radiation?
No, I'm saying, how do you know how it is close to it unless you're actually close to it?
You can.
Everything you're saying is dependent on the assumption.
No, because you know how the inverse square relationship works.
But how do
you can actually test that
right up next? How do you know that?
You can.
How do you know that's preserved right up next to the sun?
All right, guys, just one sec. Can we really try not to talk over each other? Let one person finish the point before someone else comes in. Okay.
All right.
Philip Bell, do you just want to answer his question there, and then we'll carry on?
Yes. Why shouldn't we know that it's not the same. It's an experiment that we can do. We can carry it out, and we can and we determine that the inverse square relationship, and if it holds here, it'll hold on towards the sun. Why shouldn't it?
Define here. How close up to the sun were you when
on the
you
Earth?
determined that?
Here is on the Earth, doing experiments on the Earth.
How close were we to the sun that you feel that inverse squared holds? Like, what if it gets cubic or like to the power of 4, 5, or less? Like, how do you know? Like, if the intensity of the light of the sun is maintaining that relationship very close to it.
First of all, such a thing would make it a lot worse for you, but if that were true, but it doesn't. It's the inverse square relationship. However, the point is that the sun has a lot, and this energy that would, with the sun being close as you think it might be, would make it impossible for anything to survive here. But the other thing about it is, the other fact is, of course, the size of it. That's another fact. See, the problem with the flat Earth idea is that there are things that are facts, that are already established facts, and things that are available to you to check. It's not as though we can just say these things. You can check them. Okay, they're available to you. So if you think there's something wrong with our model, if you think our model is wrong, then falsify it. Falsify this bit about the energy from the sun. Falsify this bit about this about the distance. Falsify the size. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's
our model. As I explained to you, this is the model, right? Our model suggests that these things are in it, and these are facts that we've added to our model.
Right. Let's go through those one at a time. So the energy one, I can't verify unless I'm actually next to it, which obviously is not humanly possible. So that
no, you don't need to be.
1 second. No, all I'd have to do is then approve of your inverse R squared relationship, which may or may not be true. We don't even know if an R exists. We don't know if we're on a sphere or a flat plane. So that's already sort of problematic. But that may hold local, to the Earth, but we don't know if that holds next to the sun. So we'll dismiss that. Your second one was the distance. I have a question for you.
You
guys
do what?
Believe what? What's that?
You'll do what? Dismiss?
Yeah, dismiss that, because I can't verify that unless I'm able to reaffirm that relationship holds close to the sun.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. You'll just dismiss the fact. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Carry on.
Yes. I will dismiss your fact. Yeah. And so now the next thing is this notion of preservation of angular size of the sun. I wanted to get into that with a professor.
Sure.
And we have one here. So
good.
You guys, because of the 93 million mile sun, that's sufficiently far away, then you'll maintain angular size, and that's, you guys claim that you have observations that show that. My question is, what distance away of the sun does that begin to be seen? How far away does the sun have to be to start seeing angular size being preserved?
Who knows? A long way away.
Right. Exactly. You don't know.
Such that the rays from the sun would be so far away, and the fact that it's big enough so that they appear to be parallel.
Right. I'm glad you answered that honestly. I appreciate that. You don't know. And so you don't know whether the distance that it is that we observe is the amount that is the threshold to start seeing that angular size preservation, right? You don't know that for a fact, right? Whatever it is, 3,000,
yes.
5,000, 10,000.
Yeah, I do, because we can...
no, you just said you don't know. You just said you don't know.
The rays are parallel. They obviously parallel to us. The angular size of the sun doesn't change. That's an observation that you can make yourself.
Yeah, but you did not know what distance that begins to happen. You just said it.
Why does that matter? Right? It is what it is.
Well, what if it happens at 3,000, 5,000, 10,000? What if it happens at not order of magnitude of millions? You don't know that, right?
No, it would be in the order of magnitude of millions. It certainly wouldn't be in the thousand.
But I'm asking.
Well, you can do the geometry on that. You can do the geometry on that.
Okay, so then you would know when it starts to begin to hold. That assumption will hold.
Oh, yes, I didn't say that you couldn't work it out. I just said that I don't know.
Okay, so then why do you know that it's not on the order of thousands?
Because it has to be in the order of millions for it to be as parallel as it is. And not only that,
but you
the
said,
size of it has to be. But these things are established facts. The size of it.
By who?
Is
That's
an
what I'm
established
asking.
fact.
Who did
The
that?
distance to it is an established fact. You keep forgetting that bit.
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
Yes, it is. You can as much as you like. Okay, these are established facts.
Sure.
Let's move on to something something else.
Okay, so we've covered scientific models, facts versus speculation. Earth modeled as a sphere. I'm very, very curious. First of all, what technology you're talking about, what rendering program, or what do you mean by that? That was your third point, so I'll let you talk about that.
Well, I said that that we have satellites orbiting the Earth, and on these satellites have cameras, and they take photographs of the Earth. You didn't know that?
So let's get into this. You're the satellite guy, right, Professor Bell? So
yeah,
help us understand, what your experience on satellites is, and then I have some follow-up questions. Like, what makes you a credible source on satellites?
You don't have to take my word for it. There's plenty of papers and stuff that's written up on it that you can read. So don't take my word for it.
Okay.
So satellites are objects, man-made objects that are orbiting the Earth, and some of them are orbiting sun synchronous. There's various different orbits. Sun synchronous is mainly what I have anything to do with, and then there's geostationary orbits as well. So geostationary orbits are 36,000 kilometers away. It's enough to take a photograph of the Earth. For instance, Himawari.
So the sun ones, let's get into that. There are satellites out there that are able to leverage or track the motion of the sun.
Yeah, they basically what they do is they stay with it. They stay on the sunny side of the Earth, if you want me to put it in lay terms.
Okay, I kind of gave you a trick question there. So the sun, is not revolving in your model, right?
No, I know that you did.
Okay.
You need to wake up a lot earlier.
Okay, so anyway, those ones I don't really debate because those are not model dependent in my opinion. But
of course,
let's talk about these geosynchronous ones. So there are devices up there that you believe once they reach a certain point, gravity and all these orbital mechanics just allow it to preserve its route. That's your position?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically the balance between gravity and centrifugal force, which allows the satellite to remain exactly where it is. So what's important is the distance. So Kepler came up with this, by the way, r cubed over t squared. So the cube of the distance, of the radial distance from the Earth to the satellite, divided by the square of the time that it takes for it to go round, is a well-known proportion, and that's precisely what's used to determine how far a satellite has to be. So a geostationary satellite will be pretty much at 36,000 kilometers above the equator. It's kind of like a fixed distance, really.
Why don't we see these in images of the Earth?
If you want the satellite to follow the same place on Earth, that is, to turn at the same time that the Earth turns.
Is it too expensive for NASA to put that in those CGI images? How come we don't see those in the images of the Earth? Is it just too much money or not enough funding?
Well, they do have satellites that take images of the Earth all the time.
No, how come those satellites we don't see other things, orbiting?
They point these
orbiting the Earth.
Well, you do. You can see them. You wait for a really dark night and get a long exposure camera, and you'll see the satellites.
So there is a feed of the Earth showing other satellites that are orbiting the Earth, correct? That's your position?
Sure.
Okay, where?
Of course.
Yeah, where can we see that?
Just recently in the UK, I think everybody went to berserk when they saw the constellations going overhead. There you go. If you
No, I'm
want to see
talking
some
about-
satellites, go. You can see them
No.
with you can actually see them with your naked eye.
I'm talking about from the satellite looking down towards Earth.
Yeah. What about it?
Right. You're saying that they have the ability to capture things, right? Like that's how we've gotten.
They have
images of
cameras
different
on the
things.
board. Yeah, they have
Right,
cameras.
so-
The Himawari. Let me finish. The Himawari has 16 channels, I think, all taking different wavelengths. And then these wavelengths, all photographs at different wavelengths, okay? And then these are all combined to make the photograph that you see. So there you go. We're looking at it right there. That's from the Himawari. And of course, the outline is to give you an idea of where the landmass is, because you can't see that from the photograph so far away. So they show you the outline. That's where the landmass is. You wouldn't be able to see it. Now, the wonderful thing about this, it beautifully tracks the sun going around, so you can see where the terminator line is, and then you can go outside, and lo and behold, it's accurate. How beautiful is that?
What about looming and refraction? How come there's light not kind of gently making it around the edges? Because that's what you guys are claiming happens, right?
That's a fantastic question, actually.
Yes, correct.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic question. Thank you for asking. So let's think about, let's say, for instance, a model of the you had a ball, for instance, I don't know, a meter across. Okay, so think about a ball a meter across. The atmosphere would probably be about the thickness of a piece of paper.
Okay.
So do you think from the distance of the Himawari that would make any difference at all in terms
By the
of...
way, Professor Bell, I
refraction?
hope you know I was being sarcastic. I don't believe light curves, right? I hope you maybe, I think you missed the sarcasm in that.
I was toying with the idea. I actually have on my desk over here some apparatus which I was toying with the idea of doing a little experiment and then putting it on for you. But perhaps we'll leave that for another day.
Right.
But I can tell you that light does curve. Okay, that we can bend light. I've actually got the apparatus here.
No, we have.
One of the few things I took away from my lab to bring here, to bring to my house.
Okay, that was a little bit.
Can I just clarify a point there from what you were saying, man of God? Are you saying that under no conditions can light curve, or are you saying that it doesn't curve naturally?
The second one. Yeah,
right.
I mean, we know that it changes direction for sure. Yeah, it can.
Okay, right. I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
I was kind of joking. I don't think my sense of humor is terrible. I don't think you got it. It's kind of not really relevant. But okay, so
sorry, I hear so many things.
Whatever that satellite is that is showing us this, are you telling me that is in the orbit that is closest to the Earth? Like there are no satellites in between it and the Earth?
Yes, that satellite is 36,000 kilometers.
Okay, so there's none in between that we should see also revolving around Earth, right? That's my point.
That would be pretty unlikely. That would be pretty unlikely given how this photograph is put together. I thought I explained to you that it was 16 channels taking a photograph at different wavelengths.
So can I just clarify something here? So are you saying, mind of God, that in an image like this with a satellite that is in a geosynchronous orbit, we should be able to see other satellites that are closer to the Earth?
If there are large groups of them, I don't know what's the cluster. Like, is there 10? Is there 50,000? Is there 100,000?
I mean, there is a lot. I watched Starlink go over the other day. That was amazing. But are you expecting in this image to, for instance, see the ISS going across the Earth or something?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we could see quite a bit of detail on the Earth, right?
No, you can't.
Well, I mean, I can. I just
Okay.
I was at the
You're looking at
optometrist
Australia. Do you know how big our continent is?
But I mean, that's pretty detailed in the contours and then the clouds and all that. I mean, that's not exactly a lot of sort of uncertainty, you know, in what we're looking at, you know. And again, you also mentioned earlier there should be an atmosphere, a channel that we're looking through that should induce its own set of distortions. But we see a perfectly concentric blue marble here. We don't see those distortions, which are real when we're which are real when we're dealing with an object being illuminated by the sun. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so the Earth from this 36,000 kilometers away, which is where this satellite is going to look almost like a perfect sphere. Yes, the Earth is an oblate sphere, but the amount is so small relative to the size of the Earth that from the distance of 36,000 kilometers, it's going to look like a perfect sphere. And as I said to you before, I think you missed the point about the atmosphere just being about the thickness of a piece of paper, if you like, on a large ball. Think about how small how thin that atmosphere is compared to the rest of that ball, that sphere that you're looking at. And it's no wonder that the atmosphere gets to hug it, by the way.
It doesn't matter about the thickness necessarily. I mean, it's still a form of distortion. You know, it's not. I agree. Okay, maybe the thickness would be relevant, but
it's too small. I think your sarcasm was well placed.
All right, so we'll leave it at that then. It's too small. But so that's your position, that it's modeled as a sphere. I thought you were going to talk about, you know, Soundly and the bridge and all that kind of stuff. So when you said Earth modeled as a sphere, you're talking about satellites imaging Earth kind of thing.
I think
that's your.
I think one of the things that's misunderstood in the whole flat Earth debate, that's from both sides really, I find, and that is this idea that people talk about models as though they were some sort of truth, and in fact couldn't be further from the truth. So science doesn't actually.
That's the truth, but the things that it's anchored in. For example, like when I do financial models, we anchor the financial model in historical actuals, right? And then we maybe do different scenario testing within those, and then we extrapolate to the future. So, but the anchor points are actuals. They're real. So to put that into like a flat Earth, ball Earth geometry debate, those quote actuals are real observations, real numbers, real points that pin down the results. And so that doesn't mean that the interpolation or the extrapolation is correct, but the more points you anchor down, the more likely your interpolations are correct, and then your extrapolations are correct. And so those things cannot be speculation. You know, that's a very, very bad model from the beginning. It's bad.
No, I did explain to you. I did explain to you that we have 3 columns. Okay, one of them is facts.
Yeah.
And I went through the facts with you. The fact that you dismissed them.
Yeah, because your facts are actually non-unique speculations.
They're facts.
I have to dismiss them.
Like I said, you can say no as much as you like. That won't change it. You see, you can go out and gather those facts yourself, or you can prove that I'm wrong. You have that within yourself to do that. Why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were to give me 10 or 15 smart people and good funding, we could come up with a good model in 3 to 5 years, you know, and then we did that full time. We wouldn't need 1,000 years.
And in the meantime, we'll just continue to use our model because it works and we can make predictions from it.
Yeah, dude, don't be bothered. You know, we won't come and bother you or Rumpus we won't come and ask you and Rumpus any questions. We'll do it on our own. That's fine. First person actually, life is short.
You know something? I hate to burst your bubble on the shape of the Earth part of it. Sure, there may be some things on the fringes that you might come up with, but the shape of the Earth, that horse is bolted. Sorry.
Well, easy on that kind of a statement. That's too strong, Professor Bell. We know now. We're at the table to discuss because obstruction can occur bottom up. So those observations are not physical Earth. That's creating that visual effect. So don't bolt that horse too tight. You know what I'm saying?
No, the trouble is the satellites and the rockets have cameras on them. That's what makes this horse bolted. Okay.
Right. But for some reason, when we see those
Yeah,
kind
you
of
have to
images, we
discount
only
that.
get.
You have to find some way to explain that away. You saw that image from the Himawari. You have to try and explain that away. I'm afraid that horse is bolted. Okay,
Yeah,
so
we'd have to-
other things might change because of your experimentation, but I can tell you one thing: that won't change because however long you rub the board clean and wrote on it.
It was my fault. Well, not my fault. The internet's fault. Hey guys, we should be back. Sorry about that. I had all the power went out for like a second. The lights went flashed and the computer turned off. But we should be back. Mind of God, you with us?
Have a look at the board.
Video, but no audio. Mind of God, you there? Just got to get Mind of God back in. It should be.
That would have been noisy. Sorry.
Refresh, Mind of God. Sorry about that, guys. All right.
That's all right.
Mind of God, where are you? Just need to refresh.
So I came out and came back in again.
Yeah. He should just be able to. Oh, he's
Gentlemen, I'm back.
All right, sorry about that, Mind of God. I had a brief power cut. It's all back. Right. I do apologise to everyone in the chat there. Sorry about that. But we're back where we were going. Carry on, guys. My apologies.
Dave Langer in the chat was Mog got raptured. Oh my god, that made me laugh. Oh man, hopefully he's coming for us soon, man. But
right.
Sorry, Professor Bell. Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So would
Now,
you
we
say
were talking
that I've
about
thoroughly picked apart? Yeah, I've thoroughly picked apart all your arguments. Correct? Are we okay?
No, you haven't. All you did was say no.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
Sorry, you just said no. It's okay. I can live with that. Put it this way.
fine. So-
Let me phrase it like this.
Yes.
I don't expect to change your mind.
Yes. Same.
Okay, I'm not expecting to change your mind. I'm just we're providing a show that has some entertainment value and hopefully also some educative value as well. And
Right.
and maybe there's some fence sitters out there. Let me talk to you. This flat Earth stuff, it's nonsense. Okay, and very soon it'll become patently obvious when things like space hotels and space travel becomes something that's available to ordinary people. It is now, but it's to lay people. But you need a lot of money. Eventually, people with not much money will be able to go into space.
Did you know that the
When that
owner
happens-
of Cirque du Soleil has been to space 3 times?
Yeah, exactly.
Who has?
So if
The
you've
owner
got
of
the money, you
Cirque,
can
the
do it
owner
now.
of Cirque du Soleil.
He's Canadian, so he's a bit more trustworthy. But
Yeah, he's been to space 3 times.
space is
I
what now?
certainly would go.
Space-
Okay, all right. So
Space
why don't we
hotels,
discuss
Professor
this?
Bell?
What's that?
But space hotels, you genuinely believe that there are going to be actual living establishments on the planets? That's your claim?
Eventually, there'll be some sort of settlement on Mars, but that's a long, long way off. There'll certainly be settlements on the Moon very soon. Okay, so very soon there's actually quite a bit of a race going on, I can tell you now, and this is one of the reasons that the Vikram lander was there. There's a big race going on, a race between the Chinese, the Indians, the Americans, the Europeans to get to the Moon, and they're all on a sweet spot, which is actually, if you want to call it, the South Pole of the Moon, where water in space costs $36,000 per kilogram. Okay, so it's a valuable resource in space, and of course everybody's vying to get there. And there's no telling what sort of other advantages, certainly military advantages, they might have if if they were able to have some permanent establishment on the moon. There's some excitement in that in terms of science, but there's also in that, I have to add.
Okay, so you believe there could even be a golf course one day on the moon, like the Masters in 2035, something absurd like that, right?
That already yeah, you've got to imagine there's no atmosphere to speak of up there. So
so you have a par 3 dogleg of 700 miles, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Snap hook.
Yeah. Gravity's 1/6. It is. Okay. Oh, another fact, by the way. Okay, it's another fact. All right. Do you know that retroreflectors on the moon? Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. So basically, the Apollo missions, I think it was 15 that left the one that's currently being used, retroreflector. The other one, I think, is out of service or not being serviced at all. But the one that was left by Apollo 15 most certainly is being used. And guess what? They fire pulse lasers at it and measure the laser beam back again. There definitely is a retroreflector, and you've got to ask yourself, how did it get there?
Get where?
What do you think? Hey? How did the retroreflector
How did the
get
laser
on the moon?
beam get there and then reflect?
Yeah, how did the retroreflector get on the moon? The laser, the moon's surface is impossible to be able to return a precision laser pulse. That would be impossible on the moon's surface. It would
sorry, I see your point now. You believe someone put it there? It's like dangling there.
Gosh, wow. You fast today.
I honestly, I thought you were talking about the reflective properties of the moon, just by itself,
yeah.
You know, being unique. No. Okay, so they went there. No. They used Velcro or crazy glue, or like what substance did they use? Just regular.
It has gravity. You could just put it. No, just put it on the ground. It has gravity. I know. Okay. I know that's terribly hard for a flat earther to understand. Okay.
It is. Especially a biblical one,
you imagine
I believe that's a light.
You imagine that it falls off, don't you? You can imagine that you've got a belt.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. Take the biblical stance.
I did say we'll try to make the show entertaining, and you're doing a better job than me.
No, it's funny for me listening to you, and it's probably funny for you listening to me. So, you know, there's humor baked into this, no doubt. But
come on, let's get on to the Black Swan thing.
Professor Bell,
getting to it.
Yeah, the Black Swan you should look at because of the statements that we've had to hear from the ballers about what it does to the model, and it stretches it to the point where it requires non-physical levels of refraction. So I would highly recommend you look at it and just look at it.
I do. I want to look at it here now. Come on, let's deal with it now.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So what the Fat Earth?
I'm here. Yes.
Can you put it up, please? Way to go! What a beautiful image. Okay.
Yes.
Of incredible amount of distortion. And remember, I did say to you.
Yeah.
The distortion's self-evident. You can have a look at the things that are supposed to be straight. Yes, it is.
The distortion's
you said just say no.
Well, it's local. It's not uniform across the whole image. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why. Well said. Congratulations.
Let me walk you through this.
Okay.
Let me walk you through this. Let me walk you through this image as if I was a ray traversing ball Earth. Okay. Let's say I was along that line in the background of that water, 10. Let's just even say it's 9.5 miles away, just slightly behind platform habitat. Let's say I was a ray that has now interacted with that, or the cluster of rays. You now believe then that ray shoots up and around the ball Earth, right? And so let's focus on the ones closest to the surface. What you should do when you have a little bit of time, just get a piece of paper and a pen and just draw the density profile that would allow that ray to steer itself tight to the surface over ball Earth, and you'll find that that's a non-physical density.
I'm showing it to you now, just in case you were wondering. And it's not density; it's temperature that's important.
Yeah.
Whatever
Correct.
governs the direction change of that light ray. So you guys say it's temperature, which leads to, a density change, and then that's what Snell's law would need, right? FTFE? Like it's temperature to density.
Well, it's the temperature gradient, the changes in temperature that can cause the physical distortion of light. But it's not my debate. I'm trying not to get involved.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. No, I've heard that from others. But it's the temperature then which leads to a density profile that would then be entered into Snell's law to govern this change in direction. So you don't have to do it now, but I would highly recommend you do that. There is no
Keep saying the right things, but just drawing the wrong conclusion.
No, I'm asking you to do it. You should look at what you're claiming is happening to produce an image like that, which is actually not really.
Have a look at this one.
Yeah.
Where's FTFE? Put my image up if you like. One of the Black Swan. Well, not the Black Swan, but certainly one of the images that I gave you with the rigs. Pretty much similar to this, where you can only see some of it. Not this one, one of the others. So here you can see. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay. So please, where is half the rig?
Right. So I want just so we're playing fair. I recognize that in your model, at least from what Rumpus and others have shown me, that objects can appear. You can have an image that looks flat. You can have an image that looks concave. You can have an image that looks convex. I get that based on the assumptions. I don't think you guys are aware of the fact that we have the same flexibility as you all. It's just we're looking at different conditions that produce those images. So if you have to understand that obstruction bottom up across a flat plane has been proven rigorously. So I don't know if you appreciate that.
You're seriously looking at this image that's ahead of us. You're seriously looking at and saying that has something to do with perspective.
It's not just perspective.
Really?
He goes into all the Bessel functions and
half
look
of
at the
that
math,
rig.
look at his video.
This isn't a little bit at the bottom. This isn't some little bit at the bottom. This is half of the rig.
Yeah, like I said earlier, and you agreed, height gives
this is a serious problem for you. Come on. This is a serious problem for you.
It's not as serious as claiming infinite refraction in the Black Swan. I'd rather have these problems than your problems. And I don't want to fight the flat Earth problems.
This image alone destroys any notion that
because objects can be obstructed and are obstructed always bottom up. No. I would say actually always bottom first in any scenario. Always. Actually.
You can pretend
because
as much as you
like we both like we both agreed, height always gives preference for visibility. It doesn't limit the ability to see things.
Okay, what do you think would have a bit higher in this particular case?
Say that once more.
If the person taking this photograph got a bit higher up, what do you think what do you think they would see?
You would be able to see more.
Really?
Not all the time, actually.
Not the distance.
Actually. I would even say not necessarily. It actually still depends on the viewing conditions, but I would assume that if you gave it more height, it wouldn't hurt. You would have a better chance at seeing the things that you believe are not visible, or quote blocked. All I'm saying is it will not.
I got to hand it to you
to have height.
I got to hand it to you. Your ability to squirm is fantastic.
Yeah, I learned that from Craig. We've been on debates multiple times.
You're pretty good.
Hey, come on.
You are. I got to hand it to you. You're pretty good at it. However you learned it. And if Craig taught you that, then he's a master.
We've gone up against the Rumpus, who is the premier ray tracer, and we absolutely humiliated him a couple of days ago. So these kind of things have all been ironed out.
The Rumpus wants to come in the after show, so
that's fine. Yeah, we'll see him. Yeah, and Get Life is Short.
Can we have a look at
bring him on?
Okay.
And if Russian Vids is there, bring him on. We can just light the whole thing up.
Can we have so Fight the Flat Earth? Can we have my diagram?
Yes.
FTFE, dude. If you give me a wrench, dude, I could put Life is Short's video in the chat. But you didn't give me a wrench, man. That's like wrench discrimination.
I choose wrenches once a month, and it's not that date.
Can you give it to any flat
Okay,
earther
so-
who can put Life is Short's video in the chat?
Or someone else could just grab it.
Yeah, go to Life is Short's channel. He's a scholar. I believe he's part of Globebusters. That is the most rigorous piece of anything that scholarship that I've seen on either side. It's not these cartoons and the nonsense that Rumpus puts up and whatever this gibberish you're about to show us.
Yes, you're the master. You're the master of squirming and not.
Right.
Pretty. All right. So let me explain this for a minute. Okay, I'm pretty sure you know what I'm about to say, but we'll do it for the viewers anyway. Okay, so the observer. So light obviously is reflected back from the object. So it comes from the object back to the observer, and what you're seeing here is looming. So as the light's refracted, it looks, for all intents and purposes, to the observer as if they're looking straight ahead. But in fact, they're actually looking at an image that's beyond the horizon, that's beyond the geometric horizon. And so that light is bent, as you see from the red lines, from the red rays, through different layers of temperature. And it's pretty obvious that it would loom like that. And what is the evidence for that the looming is taking place? Not just looming, but also towering. We can see the actual image is so badly distorted that we can actually see how things are stretched, and we can see how distorted they are almost everywhere in that image, which explains why you can see in the distance. Now, bear in mind, remember I told you this. Remember I did explain to you. I said, that's kind of like what it would look like if it was flat, all right? Because things would be, things would get smaller and smaller and smaller into the distance and squish into the distance, okay? And if this image were on a flat Earth, then you would be swearing that there was a fog there, because you should be able to see further than that. Okay, but you can't see further than that because there's such a lot of distortion, and it's this distortion that's actually causing the looming.
You can.
So I'm afraid
that
next one was not worth 5 minutes. All right, you should go back and tell.
I need to see the density profile that will allow those rays to loom or tower, like you just said. I need to see it. Maybe we need to have another hangout where we need to go.
Oh, okay. Hold on, I can show you that. Give me
sure,
2 seconds.
they're available to you.
Desktop capture.
But Craig, I'm going to ask some questions about what you're about to post.
Okay, I'm just getting it up for reference. You guys carry on.
Okay, so I want to make sure that then you're going to use that profile uniformly across the surface of the water. You apply that everywhere in XY.
So, do you agree? Do you think that Snell's law applies? That it's a thing?
Yes, I do. Rumpus gave me a nice briefer on that. It's Maxwell to Fermat to Snell's law. The Fermat, I believe, gives the speed or the time. The ray, it picks the shortest, and then Snell's governs the direction. So that's what I gathered.
Why do you think? Why do you think that wouldn't apply on both a flat Earth and a spherical model?
I do believe it applies. I just want to know the density, the gradient, or sorry, the atmospheric profile.
I'm showing it to you now.
Would allow that. Right. So are you applying that consistently across the water?
This simulation would apply that consistently across the water.
Okay.
And
so 1 foot above the water?
In this simulation, it is showing how you would get those particular images based on our known quantifications of refraction. And as you can see here, it shows what the temperature profile would be as you got higher above the water in feet. So as you got to about 50 feet above the water, there's actually a large temperature inversion that is what causes all this in the background.
Okay. But 1 foot above the water, everywhere along what we see would have the same point, right? Temperature and then density a figure. That's what like at 1 feet, 2 feet. It's all I'm saying is it's applied uniformly, right, across the whole surface.
I believe when Mick wrote this particular simulation, that is how he put it. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So what you guys need to do is just understand then that you have a constant density profile at different elevations spread uniformly across the surface of the water, And so now you're going to propagate light rays through that, right? And so you're going to infinite refraction or high amounts of refraction to produce that image, that black swan. Refraction is another word for direction. So your rays are constantly changing direction as they go across the surface of the Earth to reach the observer, which is only a few feet above the ground. So that's the part where we need to see a mathematical treatise on that. How does that work? You know, you can't just flash a red graph with a bunch of points. Show us that, and then show me a ray traveling over the surface that profile produces all those changes that allow that to happen. And you'll see, because I've done this just in my own, you know, just
you seem to have all the all the things that you need. Why don't you do that and then prove that they're wrong?
I'm asking you guys to do that because it's non-physical.
Why should we?
Well, you don't have to.
We have our model. We're satisfied with our model. You tell us why our model
now
is
you're
wrong.
saying, but Professor, now you're saying no and all that. Why are you doing that? You were making fun of me.
No, I'm not.
Like,
I'm not saying no. I've already told you what happens. I've given you the evidence. I've told you what happens. I've shown you the evidence of why I know that there's looming. You're the one who's saying nah. Now, if you want to back up your nah with some evidence, go for it.
Well, I'm telling you that
in the meantime,
that assumption that you guys are making, that assumption you're making close to the surface of the water will not allow light rays to change, like somebody quoted me in the chat correctly, a change in direction perpetually for those surface rays. It will not allow that. So we've heard stories from Rumpus and others talk about higher order derivatives, but we need to see that. You know, we're math people. If you show us that, we'll be able to criticize it. We need to see that.
You said the word not. Okay. You said the word not. What's your evidence?
Right. Of what?
You said that the light wouldn't bend like that. What's your evidence for that?
It can't, because the density is constant at various heights along the surface of the water. And so there is no gradient that will steer the rays. That's my point.
The temperature. You were told.
No, it's constant at every height. You've applied
Did you forget
that curve.
That it was the temperature gradient?
No, I get that, but you apply that gradient everywhere along the surface, and then you will not be able to steer a ray through that medium. You will not.
How do you know that?
Earth curve. If you
How do you know that?
If you start with a ray leaving the horizon, which is just a line of water, and then now it's traveling over Earth curve, you then can apply Snell's law at each intersection point. We know that it's going to need to change direction constantly to go over the Earth curve. And so then you would then put a density profile that would make that happen. And so that is not physical.
I'm sorry, but it does. And no, it does.
I mean,
and you have no evidence at all to back up your assertion that you just made. None at all.
Every step along that ray, at every step along that ray, you have to experience a new density to cause it to change direction. So
it's a temperature gradient.
Right, but it has to stay
now. If you disagree,
or surface.
If you disagree, experiment and show us. In the meantime, we've got a model that we use.
Yeah, but I can't show you something that's non-physical, right? Like I'd have to show you first and foremost an atmosphere that curves, that bends.
Then don't make the assumption.
1 second, let me finish my point. First, I'd have to make. One second, I'd have to first make a layered atmosphere that curves around a surface, which is impossible. And if you have suggestions, I'm open to that. Next, I then have to shoot a ray through that and then have it stay along a constant density medium tight to the surface of the Earth, but it constantly changes direction. How am I supposed to do? You can't do that. Like fundamentally, that channel is constant. That ray, when it starts and stays along the surface and ends, it's in the exact same medium. It doesn't know that anything's changed. So if it doesn't know that anything's changed, how does it know to change direction? That's my fundamental point. This is over for Ball Earth, man. You guys got to stop this. You know, it's over now. Rest in peace.
You need to just stop talking for a minute. Let me respond to what you say.
Sure. One sec, guys. I'm going to nip away for 1 sec because I need to take a Riley. You guys carry on. I'll be back in a second.
A Riley? What the hell? Oh my god. Jeez.
Okay, so did he ask us to wait or carry on?
I think he said go ahead.
I think maybe in the interest of running a show, we ought to carry on. Okay.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable unless he's around to babysit us. But you know, if you're okay with continuing,
yeah, no, I'm fine. No,
Okay, cool.
we're grown-ups. I think we can manage.
Okay.
So the point I was trying to say was you made some very definitive assertions.
Yes, I did.
What is your evidence making those assertions? You certainly wouldn't accept me saying that, making off the cuff assertions like that. So
The
why
only
should I
hope you guys
accept
have,
you saying
the only
that?
hope you guys have is that light ray is aware of what's going on in the higher level layers. But the whole point of that black swan is that those rays that are tight to the surface, because the observer is very close to the surface, they don't leave a very big channel, you know, a few feet from the surface of the water. And so in that channel, you guys have to produce a profile, some kind of direction change for that ray all the way for 10 miles, and you just will not be able to do that. So that's why the black swan is such a
Can I
killer.
respond?
Yeah, go for it.
Can I respond? Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
First of all, just to make one of your points, I know that you're a spiritual person, but the rays are not sentient, so they don't make decisions.
I agree. And they don't have a driver's license either. They don't know how to drive over a curve as well. So yes, they don't have a driver's license.
Okay,
and
they'll bend.
sentient.
They'll bend because of the temperature gradient. So that's why that happens. All right, and because of that, we get the looming, and the evidence for that is the distortion of the image. That's very, very self-evident. There's
no
a lot
gradient,
of
that's
things
my
you
point.
have to. Yes, but you say that. You say
There's
that
no
there
gradient.
isn't.
There's no gradient
Go out
along the
there,
ray path.
measure it, tell us. Prove it.
There's a gradient.
Prove that
from
snow is wrong.
surface. There's a gradient from surface outwards, but there's no gradient along the ray path, along the surface. That's
Really?
my
Did
point.
you measure it? Did you?
No, that's in the assumption.
Mog, I think you're missing a simple thing, though.
Yeah, go for it.
If the assumption is that the Earth is curved, then of course the gradient is also going to be curved. And if light travels in a straight line, it will be traveling through the gradient because it's going through the curved atmosphere.
Yeah, but it's staying close to the surface. I'm more about the surface rays, not the ones up above. I agree that you can get rays to curve in those kind of environments. That's been demonstrated. I'm talking about the ones that are along the surface and staying in a constant density chamber, corridor, whatever you want to call it. So that's where Ball Earth ends for me, because once I heard Ruhif say that, and then Rumpus and these people said all they can appeal to is higher order derivatives to make that steer itself, that's when a mathy person like myself says I can't be a part of Ball Earth. And so that's why I'm here defending the flat Earth and the Bible.
Really? So the satellites mean nothing to you?
The
Himalaya pictures.
I don't disagree that there are things up there moving around, but no, do I think that that's an actual faithful representation of our Earth that I'm standing on? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, this is the model that we rely on, and every part of it works.
If it works for you, that's fine. I would say my reality is, like I said, the Bible, the optics, and the pilots, and my senses. So,
let's get to the pilots. I forgot about them.
Yes, right, yep. You believe? First of all, Professor, I gotta ask a question.
Let me bring up that back up a sec for you.
Do you believe that video is CGI, or do you accept that those people are actual pilots, or do you believe they're fakers?
No, I don't think they're fake for a minute.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that, because I don't believe.
But I would like to respond to it, though.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. So that was Comedy Central. You know those people were having you on. You know those people were having him on, right?
Well,
especially the Aussie.
But I asked my friends who are pilots, and they wouldn't manipulate me like that. So yeah, they could, but I confirmed it with two people that I know who are pilots. So I'm not that stupid where I'm like, the video's real. Like, obviously we know there's a lot of manipulation in the world, right? Even on the flat Earth side, there's half true.
I've got some bad news for you. Just stop for a minute. I've got some. I don't know if it's bad news. No, it's probably good news, actually. Your friends probably love over this.
This better not be Wolfie. If you play a Wolfie video, I'm going to tell YouTube to shut it down again.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, was that you that did it last time? Come on.
You know how much power I have, with all my subs, Craig? Lots.
Yeah.
Hey, listen. Why don't you? What? Look, I agree that you're religious and all that, and actually, there's a couple of things I don't understand. If I may just pursue this with you, okay?
Sure.
All right. First of all, this idea of gravity. You know, do you think gravity is a thing or not?
I debunked that, actually. You should watch our last hangout
No,
with
you haven't.
FTFE. And,
What do you mean you debunked it?
By using
Exactly
the word
what do you mean by
orthogonal.
you debunked it?
Right, Phil, let me explain to you what he thinks. He thinks that, say there's three objects, right? You've got the Earth, and you've got an ant sitting on the Earth, and you've got a crane above the ant, okay? He thinks that if the crane was falling towards the Earth, the ant should be able to feel the force that the crane above it is also feeling.
Yes, correct.
And that's fucking retarded.
If gravity worked as a magnetic field or an electric field, if it obeyed those kind of principles, but it doesn't. And so the fact that it doesn't, I used orthogonal, but I think I'm going to use independent going forward. But you can't have an independent field and one that obeys superposition like those other ones do. So you guys are double dipping. And so that's the problem with gravity at a mathematical level.
Laughing.
It doesn't work.
Let me ask you. Just stop for a minute, okay? Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you agree that things fall if you drop them?
If the environment that's surrounding it enables that, it may not. But if you're talking generally,
if I let go of it, will it fall?
That one will. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Why? Why
not
did it
because
fall?
it's not because it's attracted to the Earth.
No, you've got to tell me why. Don't worry about why.
He didn't ask you why it doesn't do it. He specifically asked you why it does do it.
By the way, FTFE, you missed a gem that I dropped in our very, very first debate. I think it just went over everybody's head. I would say in a model that there's a unit vector pointing down. So all things equal, density above and below being equal, there's a unit vector that says the default will go down. And so
I agree. It's called gravity.
On a flat Earth. I wouldn't call it gravity. I would just say that. I would just say if the density or the medium above and below are the same, then
they're not though. The medium above is less dense than the medium below because we have.
No, but I'm saying in the most difficult case. I'm saying in the case where you guys make the argument. Well, okay, if it's following density, why doesn't it go up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'm just saying that there's a unit vector pointing down.
Right, I'm going to stop talking. I'm sorry. I've been really wanting to jump in.
We agree with that. We agree with that vector. It's called gravity.
I know you do, but I would just say I would attribute that unit vector to the creator, the Heavenly Father who created all.
Oh, okay. That's fine. So God created gravity. Well done for him. Poof,
oh man, now you're blaspheming him, Professor Bell. Just relax.
No, not at all. I think actually this was the point I was going to make. I think that you flat Earth people are mocking God.
If it's not flat, yes.
Surely God is smarter than to create the abomination that you call flat Earth. You got to admit.
Right, let's bring this back on track a second. Mind of God, you have made a claim. The claim you've made is that there is a vector that will make things go down. Can you please explain to us what is causing that vector?
Like I said, it'd have to be God. It'd have to be. So that's the best.
As soon as you invoke God, you lose.
Well, no, I mean, to people who don't believe, that's fine. That's all I can do.
Right, so magic's a thing. Cool.
No, FTFE, that's okay. He can invoke his God. So it's all right. So for things that fall, if I drop my pen, it's going to fall. That's God.
No, I would just say the bias towards down as opposed to up, with all else things being equal. That's God's design. Yeah, that's. I
can't even dispute that. So God created gravity.
And you don't have to believe it, but you can call it gravity. I have no issues with you.
I'm not making a claim about believing God or not. I'm just saying. I'm just reasserting your assertion. That is, God did it, right?
But let's say even if we take a step back and say the desire for an object to fall towards the Earth fundamentally, you would call it gravity, and I would call it, this unit vector that, puts the object
what's wrong with God?
Down.
Yeah. Okay. So what's wrong with God made the Earth spherical?
He could have. It's just not the God of the Bible. He could have.
Really?
Yeah.
Who said?
Just the Bible.
Yeah.
It makes very clear.
Ow, my head.
Now, the other point I wanted to make about gravity was this: why are you afraid of gravity in your flat Earth model? Why are you afraid of gravity?
I'm not afraid of it. I just don't like the contradiction.
Why does gravity bother you?
It doesn't bother me. It
No, you
bothers
do.
me that it doesn't well, let me answer. It doesn't obey the same principles like an electric field and magnetic one, which obey superposition. And so superposition.
Electric fields also have the same relationship, by the way.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Coulomb's law?
Yes, I have.
Have you heard of Coulomb's law? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the electric field governed by
Q1, Q2 over R squared.
Yeah, it's the intensity of the attraction between 2 point charges. Yeah.
No, just listen to me say it again. Listen to me say it again, okay?
Yeah.
K, the constant, times Q1, Q2 over R squared.
Correct.
Listen to the gravitational one. F. M2 over R squared. Do you think it's a coincidence?
Yeah, you guys piggybacked real things. you piggyback something that's real.
Wait, you know that Coulomb's law was made like 100 years after Newton's law, right? Newton died. Newton died, and then like 18 years later, Coulomb came up with his thing.
But the only thing that those things, but Craig, really the only information is kind of the constant and then the inverse squared relationship. So,
yeah, and it applies all over nature.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not that,
So God created all these magnificent relationships, and you're denying it.
Well, no, just the gravity one. I acknowledge the other ones.
You should go and say about 50 Hail Marys, I reckon.
Gravity does not obey superposition, even though you claim that it does. That's my problem. It actually obeys it only on a point-to-point per mass, and then after you get that force, then this independence kicks in, and that's voodoo to me. Like you can't obey superposition at a point level, but then disregard it between masses. That's not real. That's not real life.
I reckon if you want to get raptured, you better go and get some forgiveness, mate, for turning God's world into an abomination.
That's why I asked FTFE to go 5% to charity to try and cover up some of our sins. He has a lot more sins than I do.
And just to back up that, 5% of super chats from today will be going to an education charity that will be chosen by my channel members and patrons.
I love it. That's excellent.
That'll be excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, so hopefully that they'll be educated to go against the system and understand that the Earth is indeed flat and stationary. So that is my hope and prayer for that money. But that's good, Professor Bell. I think that we've all concluded I won. That's fine. I mean, I beat Craig already, so it's not. Don't take it personally.
Did we just slip into an alternate reality, or
did we just get Mandela affected, or what's going on? Don't worry. I mean, I have a lot of victims along my path. Craig a few times, and then yourself here, and then don't worry. It's nothing personal.
Yeah.
So
now you've got a bomb right next to you, and with some really, really good shit in it, haven't you?
By the way, if you go to India with my people, Professor Bell, and you start sharing this Ball Earth thing, I'll be very, very disappointed in you. So don't do that. My people do not need more voodoo like the Ball Earth.
I'm sorry, but the horse is bolted on that one too. I've never met an Indian who thinks the Earth is flat. In fact, there's so many I've spoken to them about it, just laugh.
By the way, how do you believe that climate change works in a open system? Isn't that more of a flat Earth enclosed system proof?
What the fuck did you just say? Sorry.
Yeah. I was asking Professor Bell, but how if there is a through human means the world is quote heating up, wouldn't that seem more of a problem in an enclosed structure that we live in with the firmament?
Well, first of all, if there was a firmament, then how many years do you think is it since God made all this stuff? 6,000 years, I think. Is that
part? I don't know. I mean, I just don't even know how to get that from the Bible or in real life.
Have a guess. 6,000 years, you think?
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Yeah, around about there. Like that. So the sun has been producing energy underneath this dome for 6,000 years. Have you ever heard of a kitchen appliance called an air fryer?
No, I don't think so. I can
It's
look
a
it up.
heating element that heats up the air
Sure.
inside the a heating element that heats up the air in this dome that
Cool.
that you
Okay.
put your food in to cook your food.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Why wouldn't
Sounds
that be the case underneath this great big dome after 6,000 years of heating it up?
So,
Where's all the heat gone? Where's
yeah,
all
I
the
don't
heat
know.
gone?
We don't actually know if it's fully closed. I mean, I don't know about all those different aspects of the firmament and all
But
that.
you do. You
Yeah, I
keep
mean,
saying that you can't have a gas pressure without a container. I hear that so often, that the ridiculous statement that...
it was more about the locality and the fact that there is some kind of covering, you know, would be more worrisome to somebody who's worried about climate change than a
Look,
93 million mile sun with just a vast openness to it, you know.
just between you and me, are you a Poe?
What does a Poe stand for? I would say I'm only in
Okay.
these debates because of the Bible. So that's, or else I
All right.
wouldn't spend
Okay.
very much time in it.
From my interactions
I
with him,
think-
I don't think he's a
the type
Poe.
of person if I- Yeah, I think if you spent an hour or two with me in one of my classes, you wouldn't go around saying the Earth is flat.
No,
I think you have sufficient intelligence to be able to figure that out. Actually, I reckon I've worked you out a little bit. You're actually quite a smart bloke.
No, I'm more of a flat earther after. Every time I talk to Craig, that's why I come here, because Craig's like a baptism into the flat earth pool for me. I just need a shower, you know, and I get more flat. You know, the more flat you get. So
It's probably us who needs a shower afterwards.
Oh God, yeah.
Except that I've got a class on very shortly, so I won't have time for a shower.
But I would say the flat earth is a part of the gospel. You know, I know people don't like this, but if I'm to teach the Bible, you know, in any way, this is an aspect of it, and it's a pretty important one. So I come as a person who's a biblical flat earther. So if that's a Poe, I guess, sure, you can call me that. But if the Bible did not have a stance
in the Bible, yeah.
What's
Where
that?
does it say? Where does it say in the gospel that the Earth is flat?
It infers it. The Bible doesn't directly say a lot of things. You know, it's a strong inference, an obvious extrapolation.
Is this in this middle column? Speculation? Is that where we put it?
No, it's historical. One of them in particular.
You cleaned
is
the board.
historical fact.
Yeah, I did clean the board. Bugger it.
It would be well, in this case, it would actually be historical evidence.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Remember what the middle column was?
I don't remember a lot of your talk, Professor Bell, and I may delete that from my memory, but refresh it.
I'll bet you will.
I
Okay.
may find a way to delete it.
I don't think you will. It's one of those things where the horse is bolted. Okay.
The horse is bolted.
You
I'm
will
going to use
remember
that.
my words. You'll remember my words to the day you die.
Just be nice to my people in India, man. Don't go and tell them about spinning ball Earth and all that. They don't need that.
He doesn't need to. They already know it all.
They're going through
It's
tough
already
times
too
right
late
now,
for
man.
that.
That's
And
true,
I've been
actually.
telling them stuff for about 11 years now.
They need the flat stationary Earth. They believe in a whole bunch of different gods, you know. So don't bring that confusion to my.
You know,
people.
that's the thing about it is they actually do. They have about 1,000 gods between them, and
Correct.
yet that doesn't make them deny the science. They still accept the science and their gods at the same time. They just don't mix those two up.
Those 1,000 gods are telling them that the Earth is a ball, so they're not confused in that regard.
Do you think there is 1,000 gods?
No, I'm saying those 1,000 false gods are telling them about their false reality.
False gods. Oh, that's
Correct.
very
I grew up
nice
in a Hindu.
for you.
Well, I mean, I grew up in a Hindu family. I'm aware of their outlandish beliefs. It's preposterous.
Wow, you mean like the Earth is flat? That sort of.
No, that God manifests in like 1,000 different, you know.
You
ways.
walk right into it, don't you?
I'll give you that one, man. You got me there. That's the only one. But aside from that, you know, this probably another W for T-Mog, but you know, don't worry. I mean, you just said you're going on to bigger and better things, so you won't remember, right? So it's fine.
I'll tell you something. you're unforgettable. I will not forget you, and I will not forget this day.
Good.
Yeah, I'll never forget him saying the word orthogonal 963,000 times in one debate, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to say independent now because I think we all understand.
Well, yeah, it's true because you don't know what the word orthogonal means, so you probably should.
Well, no, I do. We do.
definitely
I do. It
You know, one
applies
day
to,
maybe I'll be lying there.
Craig,
I was going to say,
you can't
maybe
have a
one day
4D
I'll be lying
vector.
there on my last day, and I'll think
But
of
Craig,
it.
you can't have a 4D vector that's 90 degrees apart, right? So that term is used for higher dimensional spaces, you know, or 4 or 5.
Yeah, but I don't think you know what the actual word orthogonal means because you use it wrong all the time.
All right. I promise to not say it, so let's leave it. That's fine. Sure. Leave it at that.
Okay. All right.
So,
Okay.
Craig, who do you think
Gentlemen,
won? Just being
I do have a lecture that starts in 20 minutes, and I need to prepare myself for it. So,
Well,
I
any
do have
final
to
words?
go.
Any final words before you disappear?
Yep, sure. First of all, it was a lot of fun, and the mind of God, you are definitely amazing squirmer. Okay, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Actually, it takes quite a lot of intelligence as a good squirmer like you are, because you have to think on your feet and think very quickly. So you obviously have the talent. I think your talent's wasted on flat Earth.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Okay. So,
yeah.
All right. It's okay. And by the way, as for your God, I respect that. Okay.
That's good to hear, man. That's excellent. We're still observing, you know, whether he does what he says, but it's looking good.
Sure. You never know. I might come to that stage at the end of my life where I've got I look up at the sky and I think, well, maybe will I hedge my bets or not?
There you go.
And then reach out to God. You never know.
If you come by my channel, there's a group of elite flat earthers, you know, and I do Bible studies. We're taking a little bit of a break, but you're more than welcome. Fight the Flat Earth is going to do an opening prayer soon, and we can have everybody there. So come by.
There's more chance of me cheese grating.
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something, the mind of God. Let me tell you something that's I'll take a serious moment now. Okay.
Sure.
There's nothing more than I would like to believe that there's an afterlife, and to believe that my loved ones are up there.
That's awesome.
My son is in a box up there on my shelf.
Wow.
That's my son up there. There's nothing more that I'd like to believe that he's somewhere where I'll see him again.
That's great.
So I respect what you say.
I hope so too. I believe that we are not just physical. There is a spiritual component. So I appreciate that statement.
That's all right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Phil, very much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know it's extremely early for you over there, and you have to go and do some real educating. So I appreciate you taking the time.
No worries. It's been a pleasure.
No, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Take care.
Yep, you too.
Righty-o,
okay,
guys. What we're going to do, I'm going to ask Mind of God to just give any final thoughts, and then I'm going to read out super chats, and then we are going to go over to the after show. Oh, let me get this up. Then we're going to go over to the after show on my channel. So, Mind of God, any final thoughts on what's just happened?
Well, I like our last couple of discussions, you know, Craig. I think when we first talked, years, I guess now, you know, we were new to this.
About 12 months, about 14 months ago, I think our first debate was.
Right. Yeah. I think it was actually near the end of 2018.
Possibly. Yeah.
Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's interesting to see how the whole debate has evolved and all that kind of stuff. I would say our last couple have been very civil. You know, I'm actually taking a little bit of a Bible break for a little while. So these are fun, you know, and interesting. So thanks for having me on.
No worries. Like I said, there's going to be an after show. I know the Rumpus wants to come in. Hip Hop Hippie is hanging around in the chat. I'm going to try and get Team Skeptic in, and any other people who want to discuss what's happened today, or just to shout at Mind of God, chuck me an email or something, and we'll get you in. But what we're going to do right now, guys, I'm going to read out the super chats that I've had, and then we're going to shut this stream down and head over to the after show. This time, these super chats have worked, and I can read them all out. I do want to say, the last debate that I had, YouTube screwed up and I couldn't read out the super chats, and I am really sorry that I couldn't do that because you know, I really appreciate the support that you guys give me. So I am sorry I didn't get to read out if you super chatted last time, but I'm going to read them all out now. And I'm going to bump up to 10% of all the super chats that I get today will go to an education charity that's going to be chosen by my my patrons and channel members. So
hand clap for that, FTFE. Cheers.
Okay, let's start with Michael Ramone for $13.99. I think that's PlayStation Network dollars. I'm not sure. Looking forward to this. It should be epic. I think that was a pretty good show. I bit my tongue so hard. You've no idea, but yeah. We've got Raven Zero for $2. Says test. We hear you. Thank you very much. The plot hole, and guys, if you can see the T-shirt I'm wearing, the plot hole. You can get these from theplothole.com, I believe. And it's one of my favourite T-shirts. I fucking love it. So thank you. Plot hole for $5 says, here's for the NASA Shill Fund. Cheers to you all. Enjoy the show. Crafty Keela for €2. Sending love and support. Will you get my love back? Thank you. Andreja Blajhev. I probably just absolutely ruined your name. I am sorry. You gave me 50 MKDs, and I'm not sure what they are. Mortal Kombat dollars possibly, but thank you anyway. Then we got Metal Michigander for $4.99 says, it's mine and my wife's 10-year anniversary today. Can I get a shout out for my lady Ashley? Keep doing what you're doing. There is nothing more important on this planet than love. And to hear of people that have spent a decade together and do not want to murder each other makes me very happy. I've been married myself for 13 years. She hasn't killed me yet, so I must be doing something right. But yeah, congratulations to you guys. David Keller for $5 says, Earth moved from west to east as it rotates counterclockwise 365 days in the year, 24-hour days with a 15-degree drift. He just basically said a bunch of facts there. Thank you. I'm sorry, I can't say your name. Andreja Blajhev, 500 MKDs. Thank you. FTFE, you rock, man. I'm a geologist from Eastern Europe, and I can tell you this. 80% of the flurfers are American, and that's proof enough that the Earth is not flat. US education system is failing bad. What'd you say about that, Mind of God?
Ouch. Well, I was educated in Canada, so I defer that to an American educated.
Isn't Canada a little village in America?
Okay, well, sure, fair enough. I'll take that. That's fine.
Crafty Keela for €2 says, yay, after show. Yes, guys, after show link in the chat now. And then another €2 from Crafty Keela. Professor Philip Bell, contender for a Debunkies Award. I reckon, because he's absolutely brilliant. Andreas in the North for 20 Nokias says, just because. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Crafty Keela for €2. Professor Philip Bell wins. Nothing more to see. Throwing shady there, Mog.
What? By what metric?
I mean, all the metrics, but you know. David Keller for $2 says, hello, darkness, my old friend. The Earth is not flat. Crafty Keela for €5 says, I prefer QE standing for questionable education. Thanks, Bob, the science guy. Wessick for $5 says, I vote for Professor Bell to be the next Alfred for the next Batman. Yeah, that would be awesome. Traveller X for $2 Australian says, the mind of God, pay attention to the respected scientist.
If he's a scholar, that's fine. I am as well. So, you know, I don't have to give him too much respect.
Scholar. Crafty Keela for €2 says, hey, John Rapp. Yeah, if John Rapp's there, everyone say hello to him in the correct way. And Angel Gary for $1.99 says, I need to see the math. I can always show you the math about what I talk about. Anamorphic Mind for $5 says, is it legal to broadcast the death of the mind of God? People think you were destroyed here.
Ouch. Ooh.
Crafty Kid for €2 says, I love the video, only put the flurfs to sleep. I'm going to see if Professor Philip Bell will actually put that video up on his channel so you guys can see it again if you want to. War Coderid for $5 says, I've come to the conclusion that the bow tie is the more powerful form of tie.
Oh, dude, I was going to tell him about that. I knew that that was not a real bow tie. It was a clip-on. I was going to call him out on that.
Crafty Killer for €5 says, the most amusing part of watching Professor Philip Bell bitch-slapping Mog is how desperately FTFE wants to intervene and make it a dumpster fire. Yeah, you've no idea how many times I bit my tongue, honestly. I saw someone in the chat going, oh, why is FTFE popping in? Like, for the past 2.5 hours, I have wanted to scream. You're lucky I didn't do it more. Then we've got Edward Elric for $5 says, Mog, you're an electrical engineer. All these basic questions should have been answered in your physics classes. Are you an engineer, or are you just pretending to get credibility?
I mean, I worked as a software engineer, somebody who did imaging of the subsurface, so I'm more into like the seismic part during my career. And then in grad school, it was a lot of OFDM, so that's why I use orthogonal a lot. But yeah, I'm a double E. You could go to Western and see my name on the board for the highest average in double E, and my high school and my grade school. So yeah.
All right then. Crafty Killer for €2 says Goose Faba at FTFE. I'm not sure what that's talking about, but thank you. Irish Demon for $2.99 Australian. Mind of God is so disingenuous. Professor Bell for the win. Are you disingenuous?
I'm here for the Bible, so if the Bible's not true, then I've wasted a lot of time. So I'll say that.
Tell me what pi is.
I only know it to 8 decimal places.
Cool. What does the Bible say pi is?
I'm not sure what verse he's talking about. If he pulls it, then I can pull it.
So in the Bible, God's given instructions to Moses, I believe, tells him to create a bowl or something with a 30 cubits around and 10 cubits across. Now that would make pi 3. So is pi 3?
No, it's 3.1415.
Cool. So the Bible's just been falsified, right?
For you, that's not enough. I'm okay if God wants to only use one significant figure. If you want 5.
Well, yeah, but it's an objective fact that 3 is not pi. Pi is 3.14159.
But with one significant figure, let's say it was rounded, that's the correct number, right?
Yeah, but then the equations don't work. The ratio between a circumference and a diameter is not 3. It can't be.
Yeah, but sure. I'm saying that, yeah, there are a lot of contradictions in the Bible. Like, there's many more we could discuss, but they're there on purpose so people don't believe it.
Right. So there's things in the Bible to put people off on purpose.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Sparky NJ for $10 says the demand to see pictures of a satellite in space is still the dumbest demand ever. The stupidity to think that there are satellites up there only to take images of other satellites. Mind of God, your thoughts?
That could be a very easy proof if you guys just showed us that. It'd be over. I don't know why this is such a controversial thing. If there are things out there that have this capability, why doesn't it show us what's actually going on out there? That's very strange.
Mm-hmm. Crafty Killer for €2 says, like this stream or Mind of God will visit you. Oh God, guys, you better hit the like. We've got 754 watching and 326 likes. Let's see if we can get that up to 400, and then Mind of God will not come to your house. Monkey Cat Pat Pat for $2 says, Mind of God, show some evidence instead of denying.
I've shown evidence, I haven't shown proof, so I will admit that, just like the ball earth has not shown proof. So if I were to develop
You understand that proof is a specific thing, though, that only exists in maths, right?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. That's
or
baking.
That's
that's the angle with which I think.
Yeah, so
is proof
science,
being unique.
Science doesn't prove anything. However, we can use maths around the heliocentric model to provide proof.
By the way, Craig, or Fightful Editor, sorry, I do agree with you guys about science not proving things, by the way. In this sense, because unless a person has looked at all the search space of variables to manipulate, you can't say that that is the cause until, and sometimes it just takes time, until something else is, discovered that's better. So that part, I actually agree sort of what you guys mean by that. I don't think...
Please tell other flat earthers, because the amount of time that they say, oh, well, you don't know what proof means when...
But I think if you word it the way I said, they'll make more sense to them, because they'll just, they have their own sort of reason. But anyway, go ahead. I'm
John Rapp for $2 Australian dollars says, good day, awesome crafty Keeler, FTFE guest and chat. Hello, John Rapp. The plot hole for Rennie Babe, I've jumped some, there we go. Traveller X for $2 Australian dollars says, Professor Bell cleaning house like a badass. And Rennie Baby for $2 American says, came in during a break and got buffering. Blame me. No, blame the hamsters powering my power and stuff here. The plot hole for $2 says for hamster food. Yeah, I often get the out of cheese error. Tommy Gronville for 20 Nokias says paracut. Does this mean the Earth is flat? What do you think, my God? Was my paracut evidence?
Yeah, it's flat for sure. This
cool.
channel is good evidence for flat Earth. Yes, correct. Overall.
I mean, you should tell that to the hundreds of people that have emailed me saying that thanks to me they're no longer a flat earther, and the 7
By the way,
flat earthers that I've interviewed on my channel. But you know,
Craig, you used to make fun of me because of my low view count, but I got a video that went viral. Do you have a video that has 60,000 views like I do?
60,000. Yeah, I've got one with 120,000 views. I've got several with above 80,000 views. So yeah, no worries.
Okay.
My channel's got about 5 million views. So
all right, I shouldn't have brought that up. So sorry. Keep going.
The Wandering Musician, who wrote an amazing fucking song, and I just want to personally thank you for writing that song, because very much like Team Skeptic said, it actually touched me. It was a very personal song, and I can see that you put a lot of your personal self into that, and I felt it. And thank you very much for that, Wandering Musician. Oh, my things just crashed. Let me get the things back. Come on, there we go. Viewer activity. Oh God, where's the super chats gone? Oh, okay, it's all right. We're good. They didn't disappear. Oh goodness, we've got so many. Thank you. Okay, there. Wandering Musician for $2 says, "I just got here and it died. What did I do?" You didn't do anything. John Rapp for $2 says, "Thank you, wonderful chat. Feeling the love in me." Monkey Cat Pat Pat for $2 says, "I needed a break from this stupidity anyway." And then Jostein Follett for 50 Nokia says, "Someone burnt down the 5G antenna near FTFE's place." Absolutely. Justin Redline for $5 says, "Everyone donate to pay FTFE's light bill." Don't worry, I've paid my bill. It's just, I live in Scotland, and there's literally guys just turning cranks like this all the time. Basic trigonometry. I'm going to say that correctly. Basic trigonometry. Put this towards an uninterruptible power supply. Sparky NJ for $5 says, "I would like you to add a rage counter of your internet power." It doesn't go that high. David Lay for £2 says, "Mog, typical flurf, cherry picking facts." What do you think about that?
Cherry picking facts is still a fact, though. But okay, that's fine if you could. I'll take that.
Fair point.
Yeah.
I think it should say cherry picking parts of facts.
That's, I think, what he wanted to say. Yes.
Minus for $6.66, Hail Sagan says, "It's funny how the dumb flurfs think they are smarter than all the scientists in the world." Do you think you're smarter than every scientist in the world?
No, I'm just aware of God's doing this deception. So no, not in that sense. No, but I'm aware that God is behind the deception of the bowler.
Wow. Mikey Riot for £5 says, "Mog, stop dismissing and learn something, you stubborn fool. Professor Bell killing it while Mog's in the other corner eating crayons and sticking forks in sockets." Fighting words.
Holy jeez. Yeah.
Anthony Purcell for $5 Australian. Big shout out, Anthony Purcell. I don't know much about geodesic surveying. I've been trying to learn, and you sent me a massive email explaining a lot of it, and thank you very much. I haven't quite digested it all yet. I'm working through it, but I do like to learn more about my arguments all the time, so I appreciate you taking the time to help with that. And he says for $5 Australian, "Optical images are always going to lead to these pointless isn't exchanges. Use seismic data." Well, Mind of God says that he was a seismic engineer.
Yeah, I did almost a 2-year stint for, it's called Western Geco, but it's owned by Schlumberger. So I wasn't in the field, though, because that's where the real, I would say, geometry comes in. I took the process data, and in the processing, we did not account for Earth curve. So I can walk through that.
You don't need to account for Earth curve. The data gives you a sphere when you put it in.
Let's talk about that in the after show if you have me on.
Yeah, cool, absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Crafty Killer for €2 says, "Don't forget, click like, subscribe, and join." Thank you very much. Yeah, guys, I do have a members button if you would like to support this channel monthly. It means the world. I couldn't keep doing this without the support you guys give me in super chats and membership and Patreon and stuff. It absolutely means the world, so thank you very much. Then we got Sleet for $66.74 Australian. Thank you very much. "For the Mind of God, please tell me why our observable cosmology, space travel, etc. doesn't agree with your belief in God. Why can't both be true for you? Which part makes these beliefs mutually incompatible? Some astronauts are religious, no problem."
It's just the extreme stuff. I don't disagree with rockets and things that are going on up there and interesting and cool things. It's just the Earth moving and all these things like magically kind of moving. That's the issue. Exploring above the surface of the Earth is obvious. So
Artemis
it's
Project
the
for the win. Phil KO for $2 says Southern Celestial Pole. Flat Earth debunked in 3 words.
Sure.
What was
I don't know that argument. People keep saying it, but I don't understand what that is. Like,
it's the fact that in the southern hemisphere there is a point.
Don't say that. Why not just say a city so we know what you're talking about? Just pick a place.
So,
like,
all right. Canberra, Australia.
Sure.
When they look at the sky, they see things rotate around a central point, which rotates the opposite way to if you're in the northern hemisphere, say in London, and all the stars rotate the opposite way around the North Star. So how is it that we can have 2 opposite rotating stars in the sky rotating different points?
2 opposite.
Yeah. So basically, if you're looking north, it rotates counterclockwise. If you're looking south, it rotates clockwise. But if you're in the southern hemisphere, it rotates around a different point in the sky than it does if you're in the northern hemisphere.
And you guys believe that's a proof? Like whoever put
we
that,
believe it's an
that's
extremely good evidence because it's what you would expect to see if you're on a sphere.
I'll think about it.
Cool.
I don't like it, but I'll think about it.
I mean, it's one that I've never had an explanation for, apart from Nathan Thompson said, "There's lights in the sky." Nathan Thompson's a retard. Crafty Keeler for €5 says, Professor Phil Bell wins on grace and consideration in the face of pure ignorance and arrogance. She's throwing shade at you.
Whoa, where was that, dude? I was trying to be friendly today, but okay. I mean, that's a person's opinion. Fair enough. That's not what T-Mog's about. You know, join me for Bible studies. Come by.
Monkey Cat Pat Pat for $2 says, Mog, quit denying, do your own math.
There's not much math in this debate, but
sure. Not in the one you've just had. I can present lots, but Anthony Purcell for 20 Australian says, Mog, do you know how long it takes a seismic wave to travel from one side of Antarctica to the other? They're on opposite sides of the flat Earth, so that should be the last place they arrive, but it isn't.
I have no idea. I'm sure that person has no idea what they're talking about.
No, he really does. He's got a lot of knowledge in this. His point is that when you trace seismic activity, you can see if it's coming from a certain point on the Earth, right? So how is it that you can have seismic waves coming from the south, Antarctica, yet they don't appear to come from opposite sides of a flat disk? Because on a flat Earth, Antarctica is around the outside. Yet seismic waves
I dismissed
don't
that
show
entire
that.
question as nonsense. Yeah, I just dismissed that as just nonsense. Just a story.
I mean, he's talking about what you actually get from seismic waves.
Sure. I mean, when I talk about seismic, I want people to understand it's a controlled experiment. We're putting the explosive in the ground. We're putting in water. We're developing. We're creating the impulse. We know what it is. We know its signature. That's actually what it's called. And so if you're talking about seismology, that's why I wanted the terminology changed about my description. Earthquakes and all that and how they're measured and people I don't know about that stuff at all. So it's very difficult.
It's definitely worth learning because there's a lot of questions Flat Earth needs to answer about that.
Sure. I'm sure I could learn it probably faster because I have some experience, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's why I was a seismic engineer and I know about that. So.
All right, Anthony Purcell, another 5 Australian says, Mog, you claim without evidence that the mathematics of refraction does not work.
Yes.
Do you have a mathematical model, a mathematical argument to that?
Well, you guys are essentially saying that those rays travel like straight, like along a flat plane, and that's what I would say. They're not. There is no curving happening.
No, we're not saying they travel along a flat plane. We are saying because of the fact that the Earth is curved, that means that whatever gradient there is will also be curved. So if light is traveling in a straight line, it will, by virtue of the fact that the Earth is curved, go through the gradient of temperature, which is what causes
effectively
dimming.
flat across that 10 miles, let's say, right? It's from the optic.
Not at all.
But
over 10 miles, you're going
to...
It looks flat, but over 10 miles, you're going to have 1/6 of a degree, roughly. 1/7 of a degree, because 1 degree is 69 miles, right? So if you're looking over 10 miles, you've got about 1/7 of a degree that the light has to be able to bend for you to be able to see. Okay. And that's not much, because standard refraction is about 1 degree, right? So to be able to say that light only has to bend 1/7 of a degree isn't too much of a stretch.
But it has to keep doing it. That's why it's infinite refraction, because at every point along the raised path, it's constantly changing direction.
Yeah, that's why I always say to flat earthers when they go, "Oh, well, look at this picture; it proves that you can see too far." Well, my answer to that is always, well, can you tell me what the temperature gradient was that you were looking through? Because I can do the maths roughly to show how far you should be able to see based on what atmospheric conditions you have. And if there is a temperature gradient that you can have a temperature inversion, it's going to drastically alter what the light is doing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that might be a full thing that we can walk through. I don't know if you'd even be interested, but that's...
Rumpus is coming on, so he knows a lot more about refraction than I.
The Rumpus. Okay. So yeah.
Requiem for a Dream for $2 says, Mog denies refraction whilst wearing eyeglasses.
I deny that level of refraction concentric with Earth curve. That's what I deny in the Black Swan.
Alan H has become a new member. Welcome to the Scrappers. You can now use the awesome emoji of Nathan Thompson in jail. Anthony Purcell for $5 Australian says, I have a PhD in geophysics and a master in mathematics. You are flat out wrong about mathematical people rejecting this, you delusional clown. So
invite that person onto the after show.
Yeah, a PhD in geophysics is...
yeah, I mean, he would understand the seismic that I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, I'll send him an email. David Keller for $5 says, where is the proof the Earth is flat? Can you show us Globies, the killer?
I hope it comes out, at some point. We don't have proof. We have a rejection of the ball Earth model citing infinite refraction, so that gets dismissed in my mind. But do we have proof of flatness everywhere along Earth? No.
Just dismissing without evidence is a bit dishonest.
But I would say both sides don't have proof. But that's my stance. Yeah.
All right. Martinista. I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. For $2 says, Mog, you're contesting claim, your burden of proof.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it is. Sure. I mean, I have no issues with the proof being on whoever's side. Well, it's whoever cares.
Here's the thing for me, right? I've been doing this for about 18 months-ish, right? And not once has any flat earther presented evidence that exclusively supports the Earth being flat. Not once, ever. And that to me is a massive problem.
That's a problem for the baller.
Well, no, because I can present mountains of evidence that exclusively support a ball Earth, but there isn't anything. True. No, I can absolutely. There's no problem at all. mctoon.net/r. There you go. Boom, done. But it's a whole page of measurements of the radius of Earth. I mean, it's undeniable, unless you're denying that every single geodesic surveyor in the world knows what they're doing. We have measurements of the curve of the Earth. Yet there is not one measurement of flatness, or we have measurements that the Earth is rotating. How come there is not one single measurement of stillness?
Well, that one's easy because you don't have to measure something that's still.
You do. You get something that can measure motion. You put it on something and you see if it measures it or not. If it measures no motion, then it's still. And
we're talking.
Any interferometric gyroscope does exactly that.
So why have we seen that? Why not just make something that's moving and then put a device on it and show us that it honors that movement?
I've done that. In fact, Wolfie did that actually. He took a gyroscope out of one of his drones, put it on the globe that he had next to him, and moved the globe to demonstrate that the gyroscope picks up that movement. It's not a hard thing to show.
Okay, so he put it on something that's moving, right?
He put it on it. Yeah, he put it on. Let me get it up for you. All right, 2 secs.
And then he literally put it on the Earth, and then it started changing its orientation.
Yeah, well, we know that as soon as you turn on an interferometric gyroscope, it automatically picks up 15-degree drift in 3 axes, right, per hour. That is a fact. We can't deny that. Because the Earth is rotating, that's why it picks that up. Now, let me get the video to just show you. No, we go over that in the after show. Because there is a lot of good evidence to show that the Earth is rotating, and what Wolfie did with that was a particularly good one. But I'll get through these super chats for now. Monkey Cat Pat for $2 says, "What the fuck did he just say?" Yeah, I had that several times. Anthony Purcell for another $5 Australian says, "The mathematics of magnetic and gravitational potential fields are identical, you halfwit. They're both conservative fields and obey Laplace's equations."
They're different. We've already gone over this. They're not the same. We've shown that they're not the same. They have the same equation, similar structure.
Yeah, but it's all to do with potential
action at a distance.
But the thing about Coulomb's law is that it also needs a distance to the center of the Earth.
But those are real fields that you can actually draw flux like lines. Like
and if you do the math around it, you can only come to one conclusion, that the Earth is a sphere.
But there's no such thing as a field, gravitational field in that way. It's not the same.
Well, no, we can absolutely test the gravitational vector at different points on the globe.
The main issue, actually, this is the way to summarize it, is that gravitational field that you guys would construct gets made, and then, it may have the same properties as those other real fields. And so it's already constructed. It's not a naturally occurring field line that's emanating from each mass. That's why it's very, very different, and I think you guys would agree that it's not the same, like a mass doesn't have field lines emanating from it.
Hold on, I've got a video that's a good response to that. Hold on one sec.
Right? Mass does not have gravitational field lines emanating from it. That's not the way it works. You guys went into that last time I was here and talked about some medium or something that accelerates things.
What you just said was wrong.
Thanks, Luke. Monkey Cat Pat for $2 says, "Why would God make someone so dumb? If God is real, then he is an absolute asshole. That's the only thing to say. If God does exist, he is a cunt." But
Craig, why you can't put a super chat like that? And he's asking that to Professor Bell, right? And he's gone now. So
no. He's talking about you, definitely. But here's the thing about God, right? I reject that there's a God. I can never prove either way that if there is a God or not. But I reject the concept of there being a God. If there is a God, then he needs to explain to me why my little sister, one of the nicest people in the world, was the youngest person in Europe to ever be diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Why did that happen?
We can talk about that.
Like, that fucking breaks my heart. What if God's real? Why the fuck did he do that to my sister?
Those are great questions. I think if more people asked that, then God would not be very mysterious.
Sorry, I get choked up talking about my little sister. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
Christopher Hugan for $2. Sorry, one sec. Christopher Hugan for $2 Australian says, "I feel sorry for the professor's wasted time." Yeah, me too. Traveller X for $2 Australian says, "FTFE, I feel your pain." You didn't feel what I was feeling there, trust me. Anthony Purcell for $5 Australian says, "You are suffering cognitive dissonance, mind of God. Your prattling about superposition is meaningless drivel."
Well, no, superposition is a real thing that is claimed to have been honored in a gravitational field. So it's not. It's something real. People should look at that. So.
Song 13 for $2 says, "For our sins." There's not enough money to get rid of the sins that I've done, trust me. Prime Red for $2 American says, "Education for the win." Yeah, absolutely. Sleet for $6.67 Australian says, "Mind of God, what does God think of Spinoza pantheism that Einstein believed in?"
Spinoza pantheism.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a summary of what that is?
I've no idea what that is personally myself.
I think pantheism is the belief that like everything is God, right? Like there's an aspect
that sounds
of God
about right.
All. Yeah, I think polytheism is what Hindus are, but I don't know, man. So that might be too deep for me. That's above my pay grade. I'll pass.
And we got Martin D for £2 says, "You've been a great sport, Professor. Thanks." Martin, you did send that super chat twice. If you didn't mean to, let me know and I'll refund that back to you. Red Cosmos Devil for $5 says, "You just said flat Earth is a closed system, then proceeded to say, I don't know, the dome might not be fully closed. Make up your mind, bro."
Yeah, that's fair.
Anthony Purcell says, "Spinoza was a medieval philosopher."
Oh, so it's pantheism as described by that person. So There is an element of truth to that in the sense that, you know, if we just follow causality, then everything would have to have God's DNA on it in some way, whether it's good or evil or in between. So I do believe there's elements of truth even in things that are not biblical. So
Thomas B for $6.16 with no message. Thank you very much. And then WarCodeRed01 for $5 says, right, God totally made the earth flat that way it wouldn't accidentally roll behind his couch. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's in the Bible, actually.
What, God's couch is in the Bible?
No, I'm just messing with you. I'm just kidding.
Sleepy Dan for $2
the flat earth
says...
is in the Bible.
Sleepy Dan for $2 says, Mind of God, is it closed or not? You claimed both.
I'll have to plead ignorance on that. I don't know, because, yeah, I don't know. So,
Arrow for €5 says, Mind of God is like a big flag promoting atheism. Believers should be afraid of becoming in total denial of reality because of religious assumptions.
It's not that big of a stretch to know that the Bible supports it. So you either kind of go with it or not. So that's the nice thing about it. It's a very clear position. So to me, it's not religion. It's just reading it and then evaluating its claims, which is what I feel I do every day. So.
Be Nice, Be Safe for $5. American says, here's to teaching our children actual science. Yeah, I know. I've been homeschooling for the past while. Gently's channel. I just jumped. Where'd it go? Gently's channel for £2 says, profound respect for the professor. Yeah, anyone that can stick with education long enough to become a professor gets my respect. End Flat Earth for $10. American says, thanks, bro. See you in the after show. Yep, guys, the link to after show is in the chat now. Then we got Milton's Morals for $6.66. Hail Sagan. I agree with the Mind of God that the Bible is a flat earth book. One more reason to treat it as the man-made book that it is.
It is man-made in that sense. It's not perfect that people hold it to that level of scrutiny. God has put things in there that he's very aware that people will not, they won't like it. So yeah, it's not perfect in that sense.
I mean, I outright reject the fact, the claim that the Bible is a flat earth book. I don't think the Bible makes any claims about anything like that in the slightest. And every religious person that I've ever known in my life agrees with me. One of my very, very close friends, his father actually ran a Pentecostal church. And I directly asked him these questions, and he was like, no, the Bible doesn't mention the earth being round or flat. It's absolutely stupid to use it as evidence of a flat earth, because that's not what the Bible is supposed to be.
It's strong evidence.
I mean, an actual person in religion disagrees with you, and pretty much all people in actual religion disagree with you.
Right.
So, Better Charge for $2 New Zealand says, or she hasn't figured out how to dispose of a body. Brandon Toy for $4.99 says, it was a good debate until Phil turned it into a joke with his slams and arrogance during the last hour. Brandon, you were wrong. Phil was savage and amazing.
Shout out Brandon Toy, man.
I guess he's one of the flat earth morons, right?
He's one of the smart ones, correct.
Thank you for the money, Brandon. I love it when flat earthers chuck money at me, so cheers. Gosh of Heckfire for $5 says, Professor Bill killed the Mind of God. Thanks for what you do, FTFE. I love doing it. Philosopher of Nonsense for $2 says, the Bible was never a science or a history book. Fail. That was kind of my point just then.
No, you can't say, you can say it's not a science book, but it's absolutely a history book, and that's absolutely absurd.
No, again, I don't think it is.
A history book.
I mean, the Bible literally steals all of its stories from previous religions, so it can't be a history book. And there is no time ever that the sun stopped moving, so it's not a history book.
That's according to the book of Joshua. I'm glad you cited that. That's correct.
Then we got Chris Holland for €5 says, FTFE, fix your damn internet or I will take Mrs. FTFE for a nice seafood dinner and then never call her again. Please get the reference. Yeah, I do. My wife doesn't like seafood. Stringer News 1 for $5 says, no need to account for Earth curve. It comes at no extra charge.
Well, no one uses it in industry that I've talked to, so that's curious.
I mean, apart from every geodesic surveyor in the world, of course.
I talked to people who are in oil and gas, seismic, and pilots. That's a pretty good coverage.
Yeah, they don't need to account for Earth curve because it's already there. So Brian Brockor for $10 says, when did we discover evidence that anything in the Bible is true? I must have missed that. Mind of God is talking like the Bible is an authority. Must be new evidence that demonstrates its validity?
Good question, and it does make a lot of claims that we can talk about in the after show. But yeah, that there.
Okay.
It has to be proven to be true. Absolutely.
Mike71 for $2 says, how does he think a lunar eclipse work?
If the moon is independent, then the person who made the light would need to be asked how it works, and that was not me.
Right. That seemed like a sidestep, but never mind. I've got a few more super chats. Glass Monster for $2 says, please send me a free FTFE shirt to show off. I've actually got new merch coming, so hold your horses. Crafty Killer for €2 says, we're picking up a 15 degree per hour drift. Thanks, Bob. I mean, Bob, thanks, Bob. I can't say thank you enough, really, because Bob has just made my job so easy.
Yeah, that's kind of strange.
Cheers, Bob. Crafty Killer, no, sorry, Tommy Gronville for 20 Nokias. Let me get it up for you, FTFE 2020. Did I say that? Damn. That's going to be clipped. Irish Demon for $2.99 Australian. We love you, brother. I feel that way about my niece. Yeah, it sucks when you got people in your family that hurt. Honestly breaks my heart every time I talk about her. Class Monster for $2 says, can I get a link to join the after show? Well, we'll see who's in, but come along and we'll get that started soon. The Atheist Brony for $2 says, thanks, Bob. Yeah, definitely. Rampant for 1,000 claps. How can there be 24 hours of sun in Antarctica, mind of God?
Yeah, that's one that I was talking on Jose's, and then he kicked me for no reason. I'm kind of wanted to explore that more. So you guys have actual video footage that's reliable that shows the physicality of the sun for 1 second for 24 hours?
Yeah, loads of it.
If you send me that link via email, Craig, I'll actually look at it and we should discuss that.
Cool. Small Time Art for $5 says, don't ever be sorry about getting choked up. You have more of a soul than most theists. Thank you. Crafty Keeler for €5 says, shilling myself. Next Challenging Conspiracies featuring Blue Marble Science is on Science and Religion out next week. If you guys aren't subscribed to Crafty Keeler, she's this close to having 1,000 subs. So do me a favour and go and give her a sub. Crafty Keeler, feel
Craig,
free
guess who else is close to 1,000 subs?
Everyone unsubscribe from Mind of God instantly. Small Time Art for $2 says, I meant theists. Here's $2 more. I know what you meant. Thank you very much. Cillian Holland for €2 says, who's Chris? Don't know. And the Womble Biter for £2 says, muscular dystrophy charity, the Mind of God relies on CGI. Yeah. And then Anamorphic Mind, the last one for $5 says, how does the Mind of God feel knowing creationists like Kent Hovind think flat earthers are morons?
I'm in the position that Kent Hovind absolutely knows that it's flat. He's just... he's
oh, God, no.
Yeah.
No, I've spoken to Kent, and he thinks flat earthers are morons.
Wait, you've communicated with him?
Several times, yeah.
Oh, okay. So...
And he outright says that flat earthers are the dumbest people that there are. Like,
why don't you get him on the show?
He won't come on my show because he doesn't think I know enough about evolution to debate me.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't want to talk about the flat Earth, though.
No, well, because he thinks it's completely ridiculous. Like,
but you two guys could have a good show just ragging on the.
I was talking to him about Nathan Thompson and the fact that Nathan Thompson stole his bit, and he was like, "I don't want that idiot using my bit." So
I wouldn't mind calling Ken Hovind a sellout right to his face if you could ever have me on when he's on.
No, it's inmate number 674284, I think. But anyway, guys, that has been an amazing stream. Thank you very much for these super chats. Now, let me just show you what I've got there. So this stream says that I've made £305 in super chats, right? I'm going to give a third of that to charity.
Whoa, I like it.
So I'm going to give a third of the chat revenue from this stream to a education charity that will be chosen by my patrons and members. Thank you everyone for the support. It means the world. I couldn't keep doing this without you supporting me. If you can't support me financially, I don't care. Just share the stuff on all the social medias. The fact that you will come and watch my channel and support me just by being here, you know, it blows my mind and it helps my channel grow. So I know not everyone can support me financially, but just being here, smashing the like button, sharing it, it means the world. So thanks to your amazing generosity, I'm going to give a good portion of today's super chats to an education charity. Mind of God, any final thoughts before we move on?
Well, I just think it's curious you pick 1/3. Is that because of the masonry, the 33%?
Exactly that, 100%.
No, thanks for having me on, man.
No
Take
worries.
care.
We'll be over on my channel real soon with a after show, and I'll get invites out to that real soon. Thank you, everyone.
I'm just gonna.
I'll send you a link to that. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Professor Bell. Thank you, the Mind of God. And remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat Earth. Fight the flat. 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 The crane.